right. Another weekend, another show. How's it going, sir?
Hello. It's going well. It's going well. It's another Saturday, another weekend, another trip around there. I guess another trip around. How many trips does the Earth do?
Well, once a year around the
No, I'm,
sun.
I'm, think, I'm thinking
Another,
since I'm trying to. I'm
it's
thinking
like
it's been what 4 weeks. So I'm trying to figure out in my head. But that was a
4 weeks.
trip to
Yeah,
go
but
down. Or
I
not to go
mean,
down. So let's start over.
even then, we don't have like a weekly rotation that
It was.
works
I was gonna
that
do a
way.
fraction, and that's what I'm saying. I bit off way more than I could chew. I'm like, what
Yeah.
fraction did we just
Let's
go?
see.
It'd
It's
be
been
1/12 around
452
the sun.
since I've been last here.
Yeah, sorry, that was dumb. But I am happy to be here. This was a pretty good script. I enjoyed it, and yeah, I'm excited to talk about it today.
Oh, thanks for bearing the lead.
I mean, this script was okay.
It was a modicum of a story. We have so much horrible things to say. I don't. We're gonna go through this, and you guys are gonna find out about this script as we're
Well,
here.
we don't want to open with it was terrible because then they might leave, right? We don't want to do that, do
Oh,
we?
if I think if we opened up with it was terrible, more people would stay just because they want to see us trash the script and humiliate
The,
the writer
the
and
train
stuff,
wreck. That's true.
and
Hate
the train
watching
wreck. But
things.
I can't do that the same way that other people in the world can do that because I want everyone to become a better writer, and I don't want to discourage them just because they had a bad a bad script or something. But will that happen tonight? Well, we'll have to
well,
stick
I'll tell you,
around for the show to find
yeah,
out.
yeah, and I will say this episode or this script does follow suit or follow the trend of stuff that was written in book or short story form
Hmm.
tends to be high, by far on average better than stuff that's original. Yeah, I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's just the amount of time put in, and then they pull from that source material, and so therefore we get a better product or what. But I liked all the core concepts that were here. I really did in this story. I just think it's not perfect by any means.
I think this writer in general has, and we'll talk about this once we officially start the show, but I think this writer in general has seen the kinks out of, and I've also probably got some reader feedback from people that have purchased their short stories that this is based off of, and was able to kind of refine it in a way that has a lot more strength and foundation compared to some of the other scripts we've done on this show, where it feels, in some cases, like it was written almost stream of consciousness, not a whole lot of thought put into certain aspects of it. But I mean, for this season, like season 2 of this show, we have had more better scripts or good scripts than we've had bad, but the bad ones really do stick out. But
Yes.
that's a good sign. I'm not sure if that's going to last for next year, because in the screenwriting discourse that I joined to, and some of the message boards and stuff, a lot of the writers that usually cause a lot of controversial issues in the entertainment industry have been doing a lot more writing out of desperation to get noticed and work again, because they're not being hired on their merit anymore, because their merit was bad.
I was going to say, you mean their lack of merit?
Lack of merit, yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
we might get a flood next year of a bunch of stinkers. I hope not, but
Hey, it's like you said. Ultimately, it is fun. Like I do enjoy listening to some of my favorite YouTubers rag on terrible TV shows and movies sometimes. Because first of all, number one, I didn't have to watch it, right, which was great. And then second of all, I get to hear all the highlights, right? So it's a much faster process. And I'm like, oh yeah, that is a terrible idea if that was the line and this is what the story was or whatever, you know. So so yeah, you know what I think would be really cool, and I don't know how hard this would be for your show, and I don't want to put you on the spot because
thank
we're
you.
on. Here we are. You can handle it. It's not that much of a fastball. But have you thought about reaching out to any of the writers and having them on as like a follow-up show or a bonus show and talk to them about the story? I mean, definitely would rather do that on a good script than a bad script. I doubt they're going to want to talk to you if it's a terrible script. But on the good ones, have you thought about doing something like that?
it has crossed my mind. The problem is that nobody. I mean, the writer, a lot of the writers, like I have the agreement with generally to do the coverage of these scripts on a show like this. Some of them might know who I am, and they might accidentally slip up, and I don't want to risk that. So it'd have to be like a heavily edited conversation, which I don't really want to do because I like the live spontaneity of it.
Right.
So I mean, it's a little tricky because again, entertainment as an industry, it attracts people who are pretty vain. I'm definitely one of them. But there's also a certain other type of desperation. Now, this is not 100% across the board, but there are some people out there that are so desperate they will say whatever they're told to, or say whatever they think will work good, in the hopes of winning over the affection needed to secure a job. And sometimes they'll get so excited and they'll lose their focus that they'll say things they shouldn't say, and then everything kind of comes tumbling down, because a lot of stuff in the entertainment business is just built on a house of cards, and one good wind, one good gust could knock the whole thing down if you don't have a sturdy foundation of very smart people that also know how to make film. And the few that are still around in the industry are like Spider-Man in Spider-Man 2, holding that subway car from falling off the edge of the tracks. Right. Like they are, their clothes are being ripped and their muscles are being torn apart as they're just trying to prevent this thing from flying off a cliff.
And more than ever before, right? At this point, really, that's where we're at in the.
I mean, it's getting a little better. There's a lot of stuff I cannot say other than there's going to be a number of streaming shows coming next year that I think are going to be real good crowd pleasers. It's not going to be across the board. Like your general audience is going to be pretty happy with it, and then you're going to have some people that are going to be nitpicking it, which is fine. Good for them. And then there's others that are just going to hate it just for the fact that it's associated with either a certain actor or a certain studio, and they're not going to be convinced otherwise. And I would say that's a failure on the studio, because they have permanently divorced themselves from that demographic of people, which is unfortunate, because you'll want to try and get as many as possible. But for the normies out there, I think they're going to be pretty happy, because the scuttlebutt, with especially some of the third-party people who are desperately trying to figure out what direction audiences are leaning towards in regards to their entertainment, is saying that there's more good now than there is bad, and I hope it stays the course.
Yeah, and I would say on that note, the audience there's nothing new. The audience wants what it's always wanted. It's them who's drifted far, far away and tried to inject and alienate so many things.
And they do that out of desperation.
What they were doing.
Well, they're doing it out of desperation, because it's everybody, when you work on so many of the same stories, you're like, well, how do I make this new, different? How does it stand out? How do I get that feeling of like the first time you've seen something, excitement again? And people generally, people that have that fear are falling into the misconception that everything's been done, so why even try? It's like, no. Do what people like, which is a very compelling story, interesting characters, told well. You switch it up, you change it up by putting in something of yourself that allows it to have a different connection with people, and ideally you want that to be a positive connection. But if you can tell a simple story like really, really well, and because you understand the dynamics, you understand how people connect with characters, the relationships, the peaks and valleys of their emotional state, and you can guide their hand so that their emotions, as they're reading your story or watching your program, follow the path that you want to follow. It doesn't matter if it feels kind of derivative from your perspective. For a general audience, they're going to enjoy that because it feels new and exciting, and they're not going to realize that level of derivation until they're in their golden years, because your general audience does not see as much as a person who makes the stuff sees it, because we try to have to keep up with everything. Again, I've read over 30,000 scripts in my life, and
That's
there's
crazy,
so
man.
many of them that just blur together, but I know the beats, I know where they're going, and I'm not surprised anymore. And then with a bunch of actors out there and producers, they're reading, some are reading more than 30,000 because they're constantly paid, or they're reading coverages of the scripts, and it's all like there's no magic anymore to them. So it's now... And
a coverage is a synopsis that someone else has read it, and they feed you the highlights, right?
Well, it's more like 1 or 2 pages.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's all the main bullet points, and then a couple of other aspects of the script to make it convincing enough so that when someone reads it and then they talk about the script, they can hold a conversation for about 3 or 4 minutes about the script, because that's as much time as they're going to give you anyways. And
Right.
then,
Okay.
they can make a decision, okay, well, proceed to the next level. And when they proceed to the next level, that's when they kind of sit down and maybe read the script, or at least read the first half of it, and then
Mm-hmm.
skip to the end and then read the ending, because there's such an understanding of story structure within a lot of these executives that they can read they can read like the first act, they can flip through the middle of the script, find the mid-act turning point, and then jump to the end, the last 20 pages of the end, read that, and they've got enough of the story to know where its strengths are and where its weaknesses are. And then either you nod politely, like, okay, I'll get to work on it, or you bite your lip and don't embarrass them that the problems they have were answered in the pages they skipped, and you just say, yep, no worries, I'm going to go work on it, and then you come back and say, all right, I fixed it, I did it with these scenes here on these pages, and then they'll skim through, they'll see the pages, they'll see the answers that they want, and then you'll go from there. But yeah, it's all it's all a crazy industry. When you're such oversaturated by your own profession, you kind of lose focus on what gets people excited, and you have to go back to basics and say, just a really great story told well with great characters goes a long way, and that's all you got to worry about.
I think that's for any type of genre or anything, is you get so focused and you do it so much every day that you do kind of lose touch of the point of view of the people that you're making something for, or building things for, or whatever. And yeah, I think that's a trap that it's very easy to fall in, because you get hyper focused. It's kind of like if you were like, if you're doing construction and you're working on something that you do so well that you're hyper focused, and you're like, okay, this thing right here, I don't like how this looks, right? But when you're done and you show the customer, they won't even notice it. They don't even care. But for you, right, because you're at such a different level, you're like, oh yeah. And so I think it's important that sometimes you take a breath and you metaphorically touch some grass, right? And you're like, okay, I need to back up and remember the bigger picture of what this is. And because the other side of that is then you also get stuck into that time sink, right? Because like, especially when you're writing, it's never going to be perfect. You're never done, right? You just get to the point where you're like, okay, it's good enough. Let me just get it in front of some people, get some feedback.
Yeah.
And you're always going to feel like it could have been better, right? You just have to recognize this is my stopping point. And because you can always rewrite a paragraph, rewrite a sentence, move things around, poke this, poke that, and you got to just go, okay, no. And so I just hope that I would rather have a bunch of writers that are too hyper focused on making it good than a whole fleet of writers that are more interested in putting in propaganda, right?
Yeah.
So it's a good problem. It's a much better problem to have. Quick side note, shifting gears here, a little pivot. So this last week, I talked my girlfriend into watching Battlestar Galactica, not the original series, but the 2000 series.
Oh, the Ronald D. Moore one, yeah.
Yes, and I remember loving it, right? But I it's been so long, I've forgotten like 99% of it, right? I remember a few scenes, I remember a few outfits that a certain actress would wear. I remembered some of that stuff, but it's so good for me to watch it again, because it's like the first time all over again for me. And she's loving it, dude. She's into it with me. And I'm like,
brace her for
this is
season
awesome.
3 and 4, man.
Yeah. We're halfway through season 2 right now. And I do remember, I don't want to, people that maybe haven't watched it, I don't want to get spoilers, but I do remember it got slow for me at some point. I do remember feeling that way. But anyway, I'm just like, I'm watching it, and there's been some episodes where I'm like, dude, this writing is so good. Like this is so good. And for what they did with their budget, because yeah, it'd be really easy to nitpick and be like, oh, this set looks kind of cheesy, or this looks. No, they did so well with what they had. And I think it's aged very well, especially I've got the Blu-ray version, right? And the audio is incredible. And anyway, there's a little too much shaky cam for me. I do notice that. I'm like, just relax.
That was the style.
Relax.
That was a huge style. They're like, oh, we
Yeah.
can have some fun with the steady cam and shake it up
Yeah.
to give you like more of a visceral interaction. It's like,
That's my only complaint. Script. That's my only script. The rest of it, I'm loving it. We are also starting our journey through Star Trek: The Next Generation. So we're done with season 1 in there too. And so yeah, I'm thinking about this. Let me bring this back around. If we didn't get anything good from here until I die, right? Which will never happen, and I hope it's nothing anywhere near that, right? I hope we had a bad lull and we're gonna get back to making great stuff, a lot of great stuff. But if we had nothing else, right? And I'm looking back at the backlog of everything we have, like over the last, I don't know, 80 years, 70 years of film, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I've got enough to keep me entertained for the rest of my life. If we
Yeah.
didn't get one more good thing, you can rewatch so many great shows, you can revisit so many great movies. And every once in a while, who've seen, I feel like I've seen almost everything that's good. I will every once in a while I'll find a gem, and I'll be like, okay, this is really good that I just missed, right? Something from 25 years ago or 30 years ago, and
Oh, try
so
50 years
I
ago
just
with like Gunsmoke and Have Gun Will Travel. Those are old morality shows that inspired shows like Star Trek and
we watched a western, an old western. I can't remember what it was, not too long ago, and it was great. We loved it, and I'm like, yeah, this aged very well. It's the one with Clint Eastwood where he's super old and he can't even shoot anymore, and he
Unforgiven.
has to. He was it? Is that how Unforgiven starts? Maybe that is what
I
we
can't.
watched. I think you're right.
I know Unforgiven is like he's an old. Well, he's on his
Yeah,
way out the door.
he leaves his kids there, and then he takes off, and his friend joins him, and I'm
Oh wait,
like,
that might be
dude, it
different.
was
Yeah.
it was so good. It was so great, and I'm like, man, I don't love westerns, but every once in a while I'll watch one. Like I love the more modern westerns like Tombstone or modern in parentheses like Young Guns 1 and 2. I love both of those movies. They're guilty pleasures of mine. I love them. But anyway, so there's so much great stuff, and
There
I've been
is.
trying to like pull myself more away from the negative and just be like, yeah, let's look at it the good, let's look at the positive, and um, so anyway,
And
we,
then
we
we're
should probably
finding
get back to
people
the
that are
script.
trying to do that. Like for instance, like today's show. So let's not
Yeah, let's do
have
it.
any more fun banter anymore. We're gonna do fun banter about the script next, with this little intro. Excuse me. Welcome to Scripts on Saturdays, the only screenplay review show on the interwebs discussing scripts both professional and amateur, circulating around Hollywood, giving you, the TV and movie-going audience, a behind-the-scenes and inside track on what writers are pushing and what producers are buying. I am your host, the Script Doctor, and joining me this week, the ever-verbose and fun TJ Mack of Mac Media. Glad to have you here, sir.
Oh, fantastic! That was great. That was a great intro. I'm so glad to be here, and let's do it. Let's get our teeth into this script, man.
Yes. So this week's script is, as we mentioned in the preamble, it's an adaptation by the writer of two additional stories that they have also written. It is called Out There, which placed 45th on last year's blacklist with 12 votes, written by Kate Folk. TJ, share with us the logline for Out There.
Fresh off a breakup, Meg is thrilled to meet Roger, who seems like the perfect man, disarmingly handsome, sweet, and obsessed with her. But she'll soon discover that a disturbing secret lies behind Roger's perfection, and will have to decide how far she's willing to go on behalf of true love, even if the person she loves happens to be fake. Based on the short story Out There and Big Sur by Kate Folk.
Yes, so that was quite a wordful for a log line, because
Yes, it
normally
was.
they're a lot shorter. But we do have a synopsis here. Heartbroken after her ex abruptly leaves, Meg gets roped into attending a peculiar gala where the most beautiful people are flirting with the most average of guests. There, she meets Roger, and his effortless charm and uncanny intuition sweeps her off her feet. But doubts creep in due to Roger's polite yet insistent request to take them on a romantic Big Sur escape where buried secrets threaten to shatter everything. So a lot of wordiness with the pitching of this part, which to me is usually like an orange flag on the field or a yellow flag on the field. Sorry, wrong sport there. But it's an interesting premise. Like I was curious about, well, what does this mean by happens to be fake? Like, is it like imposter syndrome, Thomas Crown affair type of deal? What could it
Yeah.
be? But Tej, share with us a little bit of your opening of your impressions of the first few pages and the weird twist that happens before the inciting incident, which is
Yes, I
right off the bat.
I love this open. I love a good hook. I think I like that rule that in the first 5 minutes or even 3 minutes of anything, like a book or a movie, like you better grab me. I'll never forget the hook of it's been years because I only watched it once, never watched it again, but I still remember it. And that was the hook of oh my gosh, what was that horror movie with the girl that had the hair over her face all the time? The Japanese movie.
Oh, The Ring,
Um, no, the other one that was worse than
The
that.
Grudge.
The Grudge. The Grudge. Yes, dude. All right. That opening was when the lady gets pulled up into the attic, dude. Like, oh my God. So that scarred me for life. And so I love it. I love a good hook. And I like this hook on this. It was very like simple. It was very plain, in a good way where it's not just all flashy and crazy. It's like, what? It just, this thing happens Like when I guess I can be specific because we're not in spoiler territory remotely. But
Yeah.
when we start off with this couple in the woods basically, or up. I haven't been to this specific place. I don't know if you have, where they're referring to. What's it called?
Big Sur, I haven't. I can't
Big
remember if
Sur.
I've ever
Yeah.
been through it or not. The way it's described sounds familiar, but I don't really like. I spent very little in the San Francisco region compared to like actual LA.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but I pictured it like Lake Tahoe or anywhere else. Like, a lot of trees, a lot of woods, beautiful lake, beautiful,
see the stars.
water.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, cabins. And yeah, it's just this couple up there. And they're definitely in love, right? It's very, very mushy, but not in a cheesy way. Just in a, okay, yeah. I mean, the lines are a little cheesy. You're so beautiful. You're not so bad yourself. Let's hike tomorrow, right? And then they go back to the cabin after a meal, right? And then what happens?
Well, I mean, we get we understand that these two have consummated their relationship, and one of the aspects that's kind of peculiar that's brought up a little bit is the woman named Alicia. She keeps on checking her phone, but keeps forgetting that there's no service up there. So she's so she's enjoying the fact that she's off grid with this guy who is described as like near supermodel looks.
Insanely handsome dude, yeah.
Yeah, and then Alicia is pretty, but she won't stop traffic, but she's still very pretty. And
He won't stop traffic.
I mean,
And then she has yellow teeth and she smiles a lot. Then she might slow it down, but that's
exactly.
That's as much
Amber
as we know.
alert. There we go. Uh, but yeah. And so like yeah, they're out. They go out for hiking. They go to a romantic dinner, and yeah, they have their evening together. And in the middle of the night, Alan, who's the handsome guy, he wakes up, and then his eyes kind of fog over white, kind of like Storm from the X-Men films.
Yeah, that's how I
And
saw it, yep.
he opens up a laptop and is just kind of staring at it, then typing away. Then he grabs a cell phone, which is we all understand is to be Alicia's phone. Looks at it, kind of syncs up to it or something. Like we're not entirely sure what's going on. He puts everything back down and then evaporates like in a poof of
Yes.
smoke.
And you're like, what? What just happened to this dude? Because up to this point, something's going to happen. You don't know what. I did not expect this. I thought he would sneak out, obviously, is the first thing, right?
Right.
Or that maybe he would turn into a vampire and kill her or eat her or anything, right? But this just like, he just basically evaporates. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. So yeah, and then we see the fog, the closing scene, or the closing shot, fog moving sinuously over the winding highway like the vapor Alan has just become, as if they're all part of the same ethereal substance. So he just floats off into the night, and that's our opening scene.
Yeah, which is pretty creepy, and it gave me like Starman flashbacks.
Oh, Starman! Oh my god, I'll put that on my list. I have not seen that in. Like 30 years.
Yeah, that's a classic. That's a different type of John Carpenter film, but a really good one.
Yeah.
And then we cut to our main character, who's named Meg Johnson, and she is at this very trendy restaurant on, I guess it's a first date or
Tinder date. Yeah, this
Yeah,
is
it's
definitely a
Tinder
Tinder date. Tinder first date, and it is a train wreck. It's like a slow motion train wreck. It's so good. I love this scene. This was so good. I would love to see this on
It's a
screen
pretty
for sure.
bad date because Meg is intimidated by the price tag on the menu, and she has no clue if this is the type of date where she's being treated by her date or if they're splitting the bill. And Brett is clearly this guy who's very wealthy, and he's making these recommendations like, oh, you should have this, we should get this, we have Branzino, you got to try the Branzino, then we'll split on a wine. And as the date is progressing,
Hold on. Let me read two lines because this encapsulates the two completely different points of view of the event of this date, right?
Sure.
So here's Meg. This place is fancy. She means it looks expensive, but Brett doesn't get it. Brett responds, Nah, it's chill. We come here for happy hour all the time. Right? So
Yeah.
that right there, like he doesn't even pick up on it, and to him, it's like it's well within his budget. But we clearly see that Meg is like, yeah, and we find out later why money's a little tight for her right now. But yeah, this. What do you think about this scene? Like this first date, it's our first introduction to Meg, which we see our protagonist in this crappy situation. We get to see how she handles it, right, and then how she reacts after the fact. So I liked it. I instantly loved Meg. I'm like, okay, I'm okay with this character. I really want to see what she's like. What's going to happen with this person? What do you think?
I felt the same way because she has this apprehension at the start of the date, and then after about a glass of wine, she's a lot looser in her conversation, and she's just talking about an embarrassing time when her roommate slept with a guy who she hadn't slept with for years earlier, and the only reason she recognized him is one, he had a different haircut, but this guy had a very weird package, and nobody, and Meg has no idea what that means. Like even as she says it, she's like, all she said is that her roommate was traumatized. Because all the memories came flooding back, but I have no idea. But she says I have no idea what weird means. That so it's left to our imagination. This made me think, oh, okay, we're dealing a little bit with a comedy to a degree because you've got the awkward girl nervous on a first date, and she's trying to make the best out of it, and then we get this turn where Brett says, I want to be very transparent. I'm not feeling any chemistry with you. And then that kind of stops her.
Pause. Before we go any further, because this is where it gets really good. Let me ask you this. I think you and I are about the same age. Is this what dating is like? Are people this transparent? Are people this open on a first date now? Because it used to be, if you didn't have a good first date, you'd just be like, well, see you later. And that was it, right? It was okay. It was understood like, yeah, if I don't call you, you don't call me, then neither one of us is interested. It's fine. Let's move on. But instead, like what happens in this scene, is this legit? Is this pretty common for this to happen?
I don't know. I haven't gone on a first date like this in almost 6 years.
It felt. I mean, I didn't feel completely unbelievable, not by any means.
It feels like a byproduct of the ghosting age, where you go on a date, you pretend it was good, and then you just ghost them. Where this one here is like, I'm not even going to waste the time ghosting. It's just going to tell you right now, it's not. Yeah, working.
But isn't that kind of the opposite, where people are afraid of confrontation and they just want to hide behind social media? Where people really be this direct, face to face? Because he says, Meg, I want to be transparent. I'm not feeling any chemistry with you. And Meg mid-bite, what? Brett, I don't feel a spark. Meg, not even for a casual hookup, then ghosting me kind of a thing. Like she's literally fishing for like, hey, can we just have some sex tonight and then you can ghost me? Right? Like, and Brett, sorry, I'm not seeing a path. Meg, well, good. I'm not attracted to you either. Brett, hurt. Then why'd you match with me? So that gets Brett's attention. There's an emotional response now, right? He's like, oh, you're not attracted to me? So that hurt his ego, right? Meg, I'm trying to get over my ex, and it seems like there was no chance you could hurt my feelings. Like this is like therapy. This is like group therapy, like session level of like openness between people.
It's also I love it. Kind of the same way of how people interact on social media. It's like they're just behaving as they would in person, forgetting to realize that there's someone physically across from their physically seated across from them. It's just
but Brett then Brett lays it all out. This is the line. I figured best case scenario, we date for a few months, then I do the slow fade and move back to New Jersey where I'll meet the girl I really want to be with. My stock options will have vested by then. What the hell? Who says that on a first date, right?
Well, I mean, it's San Francisco, so
dude, that's so weird. Like he doesn't just have like a vague plan. Like I thought we would just see where it goes for a few months, right? That would be a normal response. This dude is talking about his stocks vesting, dude. Like what is happening? And poor Meg is just sitting there with a mouthful of food, like but she also wasn't looking for too much. So I love the honesty from both sides here. It's better than a bunch of deception, which okay. But what happened to politeness and just be like, hey, I'm just not feeling it, And you don't do it in the middle of the date, right? You do it at the end.
Yeah.
Or you do it in a text message after. You're like, hey, I just want you to know I've enjoyed the time with you, but I just don't really see us going any further, and I don't want to waste your time out of respect. So wish you the best. See you later. Right?
Yeah. Don't do what I've said, which is, I forgot about you. I'm too busy. Don't ever do that.
I'm sorry. I've just been really busy to forget you exist. Meg's response sounds like we both dodged a bullet, and I'm like, okay. Guess you
Well,
did. Anyway,
well, the
I
first chamber was empty. The second one comes when Brett winces at the bill and says, "Hey, shall we split?" It's like,
oh,
what
such a great way to end.
yeah,
to end
that's
that
horrible thing for a guy like that him to say, especially in that position where he opens up that I'm not feeling it. It's like, no, if you're the first person that opens up that says, I'm not feeling this date, the least consolation prize is I will pay for this place I recommended that you already said, hey, maybe we can share this meal. It's like, no, have your own. It's like, no, that's the proper decor here is.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree.
You pay the pill if you're the person that insisted on the restaurant and insisted on not sharing a meal.
But this is another great way for us to be like, okay, and it's one more layer of us aligning with our protagonist, being like, yeah, that sucks. What a dick, right? Like,
yeah.
He just and so anyway, so yeah, poor Meg ends her date, and then we cut to her. Let's see.
Well, she goes to work. And this is a weird job, but as she's going to work, we are being showcased a part of San Francisco that is a little bit further ahead in time than present day.
Yeah. I mean, I felt like it was. I mean, I felt like it was present day. All they do is talk about Waymo cars, which have existed in San Francisco for years at this point. So yeah, I don't know.
Well,
was there things I missed that showed it was more in the future?
Well, basically, there's the Waymo cars. There's other. Well, the riots are still the same. But also, like the other part too is she works at an eye clinic that does harvesting of parts of eyes. That's a relatively new thing. And the way it's described doesn't sound familiar to what I know some people in the medical field how they do it, but yeah, like it definitely feels like it's a little bit more advanced out there. Like there's just some sort of air about it where they're not trying to make it too focused on it being too far ahead, but relatively close.
And we're seeing this through her journey home after the date, right? Like she gets on a bus.
Yes.
Yeah, and she's seen all this stuff, and then I think she just heads home. I'm scrolling down here.
Yeah, she heads home, and then
she's looking at her phone, and we learn about her ex because what's his name, Matt.
Right? Yes. So she's checking in on her ex because there's been she's talked about on the date. There's a recent breakup, and when she heads to her apartment, she can see Matt is in her apartment with her roommate, smoking some marijuana.
Yep. So she walks in and she's like, "What in the hell is going on here?" Because her roommate is sitting there smoking some weed with her ex-boyfriend.
Right.
And this whole dynamic with Matt, her ex, throughout the entire script is just bizarre. I mean, I guess I've seen even weirder things with people's relationships with their exes, but I'm not the type of person. I'm like, if you're my ex, you're not going to be my buddy, and you're not going to be my friend, and like you're my ex. So that
I mean, it depends on the circumstances of the breakup. With this one here between Meg and Matt, I'd figure it wouldn't be hateful, but it's like you can't really be friends with that person.
I think it would become, if it was me, it'd become very hateful once I figured out that he'd been cheating on me for a while.
Oh yeah, I mean at that point, but she doesn't know that yet.
She doesn't know that yet. Yeah.
So like the context is like, because the context here is that Meg and Matt have been dating for years, but towards the final legs of the relationship, they were just more glorified roommates than actually, in love with each other, which that does happen to a lot of couples these days. Is they, the life gets so much into the way that you forget about the other person that you're with, and now you're just serving as a function where you're there out of habit, as opposed to, am I here because I care about this person, or am I here because their half of the rent is keeping me alive?
Yeah. And speaking of rent, that's the reason money's so tight for our protagonist Meg, is because Matt has just recently moved out, which means, her bill or her rent just went up by what's half of 33%, like 17%ish, right?
Well, I mean,
so
she's now splitting it with her roommate, she's being subsidized by her very well-to-do parents.
Right. So instead of splitting the rent 3 ways, now it's only being split 2 ways.
Right.
So anyway, she and her roommate's name is Genevieve, which I've always loved that name. It's a great name.
Yep.
And Genevieve is like, "Hey, Matt just stopped by to grab some of his stuff." Of course, Meg is feeling awkward, especially after just getting kicked in the stomach by her last date. That was terrible for her. And yeah, so we have this weird interaction. We get to see Matt and hear what he's like. And how's things going for Matt? What's his life looking like right now, Script?
Well, he works at some sort of tech company. He's kind of douchey. And
He is a douche.
And he's kind of dating this other chick that's kind of I mean, I'm pretty sure they're still around, but like they're hippies. They probably bathe with orange slices as opposed to soap. That type of person.
And she is, of course, she's hotter than Meg is.
Yeah, she's a lot better looking than Meg without any makeup. Yeah.
Yep, and younger. And of course, Meg does not like her at all. So these are our dynamics. We've got Genevieve, the roommate. We've got Matt, the ex-boyfriend. We've got them living in this small little apartment that they can barely afford because it's San Francisco and everything's expensive there.
Mm-hmm.
And she works at this eye harvesting thing, which I did not see that coming when we cut right to that frame of her at work, which is coming up next. We see what she's doing, and she's like slicing off the corneas off of eyes for I guess they replace other people's corneas for surgeries. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, very interesting. At this point, it all feels right. It all makes sense. They're in San Francisco. A lot of people work for tech. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of, I don't know.
Well, there's a lot of startups and new businesses and things that are trying to keep the place afloat. We find out that, I mean, I will say some of the description of how Meg cuts into the cornea was like, that's pretty vivid. I think that's cool. But she's kind of hung up on Matt still. She kind of would rather be with Matt again if she could than go back on the dating scene. And she gets a little bit excited when the night before Matt says, hey, just because we're not together doesn't mean we still can't be friends. I meant that. Maybe we should hang out. And she then gets a phone call. So this is kind of different and traditional, but she gets a phone call from Matt who's like saying, hey, there's this work event that's coming up tonight. Can you be my plus one? It's like a free deal. Free dinner and all the cool accoutrements that get.
Okay, hold on. I've got the line. This is how he invites her, dude.
Oh, yeah.
She's already on the fence. She's hopeful that maybe, he's like, hey, you got plans tonight, whatever. And then she says it's a work thing. And this is Matt's response. Yeah, some bullshit dinner. My boss wants us all to bring someone. And since we said we should hang out, I thought, why not ask Meg? So, so devastating. Again, poor Meg, who's just like, she's like, I don't know. Anyway, he's like, it's free food. Come on, let's go. And he talks her into it. She goes, right?
Talks her into it. They go to this really fancy looking restaurant. And, she comes in there. There's a hostess that asks for her name and it's all done. And the hostess brings her to a place where she has like a name card already printed out for her. And it's all very elaborate.
It's posh, very posh.
Very posh. And the people that she's sitting next to is not Matt at all. It's like complete strangers.
So they mix all the names up so that people will talk with other people, right? Mingle. So they'll mingle.
Yes. It's some sort of weird tech bro experiment of getting strangers to interact with each other to increase like more social skills, in-person social skills at that point. And Matt actually shows up and he's like, okay, great. You made it. You're here. Yeah, we're not sitting together. I'm stuck with boss, Victor.
I want to read this one description because right before Matt walks in, she's sitting there in her seat. She finds her seat and she's like looking around, reading names, and she's looking at this, how elaborate it all is. And then she notices this guy across the room, right? And this is how it's described. Meg looks around, bewildered. Her eye snags on an extremely attractive guy standing in the corner. He's tall, early 30s with blonde hair, a tendril of which falls over one eye. He smiles at her coyly. Meg stares at him, entranced, as if he's an exotic animal. She's never seen a man like this in the wild. So it's like he literally like stepped out of the pages of like, GQ or something.
It's like Brad Pitt in Thelma and Louise or something.
Yeah, but I love that because it really like this was written very well, very descriptive, not overly descriptive, just perfect amount of like you could hear her heart skip a beat, right? When she sees this dude. She's like, what? And then what happens? Matt comes in. Oh, you made it. Blah, 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 blah. They can't sit together. And then next thing you know, there's not just one guy that looks like this. Like the whole room fills up with these guys, right?
Guys and women, like men and women that are just drop dead gorgeous. And they're mingling with all the other people there, which is the script describes as, good looking, but, again, not not supermodel level.
Yeah,
And
here we go. Another
yeah,
description. The handsome men are all wearing classic menswear as if they're from a 90s Ralph Lauren catalog. Cable knit sweaters, trench coats, tweed blazers, and pleated khakis. So I'm like, yeah, you get the idea. Now, were there hot women too? I thought there's just the dudes were part of this whole
no,
men.
there were some men and women because oh yeah, because it wasn't just the men. But she was very much dumbstruck by this one guy that approached her.
Yes.
Named Roger.
And here we go. Here's our second main character, Roger. We're going to see a lot of Roger. And yeah, so what was the first thing that stuck out to you about Roger besides the fact that he was another, super Chad, handsome guy going on here?
What my first impression that I have note here is like Roger speaks like Data from Star Trek.
Exactly what I thought. Yeah.
Except he uses contractions. That's the only difference. He uses contractions.
Yeah.
Other than that,
I just said robotic, but yes, I'm like, wait, so is this, because I'm like, is this an accent thing? Because people that English is a second language can, when you write it, it kind of feels robotic, right?
Yeah.
But it wasn't just that. It was like some of the stuff he says, like the first thing he says, "I'm Roger. Please tell me, what's your name?" Like so if you're just a plain looking dude and you walked up to some girl that you were attracted to and you said, "Hi, I'm so and so. Please tell me what's your name." Try that. See how well that works, right? See how well that's
I kind of want to do
for you.
just to mess with somebody, but I'm in a relationship right now, so I can't really do that. But if I were to be single, I'd be like, I'm going to pretend to be an AI in person and see how long it takes for the other person to pick up whether or not I'm human.
This is an example that shows you like how much looking attractive, how much it lets you get away with, right?
Yeah.
Because is Meg like, "You're weird," right? No. Meg is struck dumb by Roger's looks. She reaches for her name card and holds it in front of her, making it dance a little. She's trying to be flirty, but instantly regrets it. So she's like still totally Twitter pated. And this guy could have just come up and been like, 2 + 2 = 5. And she'd have been like,
yeah,
here's
I failed
name,
math,
right?
so I'll take your word for it. Thank you. That type of thing.
Anyway, I love it because I don't feel like this degrades Meg at all. It's just because we already know she's in a vulnerable position. We've done a great job. If we just jumped into the story at this point, we wouldn't care as much. But because we've seen Meg on that first date, because we've met her ex-boyfriend, because we've seen how she still hung up on this guy, like for this moment, it's kind of cute, right? We're kind of like with her. We're like, well, he's weird, but let's see where this goes. And so, yeah, my first impression of Roger, I'm like, I didn't feel like he was a threat. I didn't feel like he was, I'm just like, he's kind of weird. What's going on? Let's go. Like, I'm ready for the next phase or the next chapter or whatever we're going to learn about Roger. So,
I mean,
anyway,
there's still an air of mystery about him because even like the way he describes his background is like he grew up in Central Florida. His father left with his family when he was a kid. He was raised by strong women, my mother and her sister. I thought that was kind of funny.
I know.
And now he works at a technology company. And when she asks, "Well, what company do you work for?" He's like, "You probably haven't heard of it. It's a good job and one I feel lucky to have." I mean, the fact that he won't say exactly what company he works at, it reminds me of the times when I had my part-time jobs in high school and college, and I'd meet some shady-looking guy, and he'd be very like, they'd usually be very talkative, and then you say, "Oh, great. Well, what do you do for a living?" "Oh, I'm in finance." And it's like, yeah, okay, that's pretty vague. Like, so you take care of money, you find money, you fabricate money. Like, what is it? And then, of course, my girlfriend, who after graduating college, she's like, "Yeah, most people who just say they're in finance doesn't want to talk about the fact that they're doing something illegal," because they're most likely are. Because they'll say something specific. "Oh, I work in stocks and bonds. Oh, I work in account management, finance. Oh, I work in taxes." They don't just say finance.
Or the thing I think of is Anthony Soprano, and he says he's in waste management, right? Like, right then, I'm like, I know I'm not going to ask you any more questions. I'm good, right? Like, okay, whatever. Because you're not going to get more than that. It's obviously it's a bump. It's a polite bump for you to not go any deeper, right?
Yep.
And in San Francisco, saying you work in tech is like, that's a given. So of course you're going to say I work at Google. You're not going to say I work in tech. You're going to say I work at Google. I work at Apple, because everyone there is working for somebody that everyone's probably heard of, unless it's a startup.
I work for Microsoft. Startup. Don't hurt me. That type of thing.
Yeah. But it's Roger's delivery, right?
Yeah.
Like when he says, you read the one line, my mother and her sister who taught me how to be a good man. I learned the value of hard work through these women, which I now employ in my job at a local technology company. Like it's so funny, dude. It's so good. And I'm like, okay, Roger, whatever you are, like, let's go. I want to see you talk more. Like I was excited. Anytime there's dialogue, a good written dialogue, you know it's good because you want to hear that character talk more.
What's
right?
interesting is that it feels still very human. It's a human writing someone that sounds like a robot. It doesn't feel like a robot wrote this, like ChatGPT or Grok or Gemini or any of those guys out there. And I like the creepy thing where he's like, "May I serve you some salad?" It's like, what? And he just grabs like tongs and gives her salad on a plate, and then says, "May I serve you again, Meg?" And she's just like smitten with him. And that there is actual wait staff around here, and part of me was thinking, well, wait a minute, is he part of the restaurant staff? Is this kind of like, is this another type of bait and switch where she has to pay a bill at the end? I was worried about that at first, but no, he was just.
Well, I thought maybe it was
polite.
or I thought maybe at first I was like, is this like an ML escort that Matt's taking care of her? Like, there's something, because there's all these handsome dudes. There's something weird going on, right? It's not normal. We know that. But yeah, just his dialogue really reveals, and it's not so weird that you're like, okay, obviously this dude's an android. Obviously, the guy's an alien. Obviously, this guy, something's going on here, right?
He's like a supernatural creature from overseas.
yeah. Something I'm thinking like an episode off the X-Files where it's a changeling or something, right? But it's just enough weird that you're like, well, it could go either way. I'm definitely leaning towards weird, but that doesn't mean that, maybe he doesn't talk well, or maybe, again, my thing was like, especially when we find out about Russia, it's like, oh, well, maybe it's just him trying to convert Russian into English, and so it's going to sound a little disjointed, right, when he's speaking. But yeah, he's very polite, very handsome. I mean, he's got the whole package. We're not sure how much money he has, but I don't see him ever struggling to pay for bills in the story. So
he's not struggling, but he has this very simple goal, and it's kind of a beautiful one that definitely would like cause a woman to swoon, especially after a bad date and even a bad relationship, where he says, I prefer a monogamous relationship. I want to find my soulmate and settle down with her. And it's so flat out, like you don't find many men that will actually say that on a first meeting. It puts you in a little bit too vulnerable of a state.
I think that we live in a society where you have to clarify that you would prefer a monogamous relationship. Like, you don't have to say that 20 years ago. That's what everybody wants, right? And now we live in this world where it's like, just so you know, I prefer a monogamous relationship. So I think that's funny.
I'm not just dating around. I'm not treating dating like a Baskin Robbins, like just a spoonful of 31 flavors. I'm looking for my whatever ice cream you prefer.
Yeah, well, wait till we get to Genevieve's situation, right? Where she's okay with her situation. And I'm just like, people that live this way, I do not understand, like, whatever. But yeah, so it's going pretty good, right? Roger and Meg, we're getting a little sizzle here, right? Of course, because he's super hot, and he's not he's not completely an idiot. So I think that we might have a chance for these two. Have a chance for these two.
Oh yeah,
he is humble.
He's humble because he doesn't view himself as attractive. But he does find Meg to be like the most beautiful woman in the room, and she is like pretty stunned by that response. And then it ends with Victor, the guy, saying, "Thank you so much for being here. Please, can you do this survey about your encounter with with your
scan the QR code, scan this QR code, and please fill out your
survey."
I forgot about that. Yeah, and then I'm like, when I was reading this the first time, I'm like, wait, yeah. So what is happening? Why are they scanning QR codes and giving feedback after this meal? So again, you're just like, this is good storytelling, where you're just like, you don't want to be so confused you irritate the viewer, right? But you want to be in enough confusion that they want to learn what's coming next, right? Like, okay, why? Answer this question. Why is this happening? And this was all perfect. I feel like the pacing and everything on this was really good. So, yeah, and it made me laugh because I'm like, yeah, this poor Meg. Now she's like, and she does it, right? Because she's Meg. She's like, okay, I'm going to scan the QR code and start answering these questions.
I mean, the other part too is like Roger says, like, oh, it seems strange, but I'm really happy to give you like a very high rating.
Yeah.
And
she's excited about it.
And so Megan, the dinner ends. Meg is leaving. She's hanging out with Matt as they're walking away, and Matt is kind of letting Meg know, like, yeah, I'm kind of started seeing someone again. Remember that Chloe girl? And yeah, like he says, like they reconnected at another work thing, and he just wanted to like to be transparent. And
Yeah,
while
but this is
yeah,
how rude it is. He's literally as they're walking out, right?
yeah,
She asks, she's like, "Hey, do you want to go grab a drink or something right now?" Because he again, this instigated conversation with her as they're leaving,
right,
and then Matt's like, "Well, I'd like to, but I have plans. I've been seeing someone actually." So now he drops this on her after he like brought her to this stupid date she didn't want to go to. Now it's turned out pretty good for her, right, with Roger, but she didn't know that Roger even existed when she finally agreed to go on this date. Then she had to answer a QR code. Like, what is this? She's giving feedback. So yeah, I almost feel like Meg should have got paid for going, right? Like she was doing what are those when they do
like a mystery
they
shopper thing or something. Yeah.
yeah, or like they do groups like where you sit down with 20 people and answer a bunch of questions. You
Oh,
get paid $100 for an hour to do
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
What the heck are those
Oh
called? I
gosh,
can't think of it.
I know exactly what you're talking about, but the words are just escaping me. But it's
Yeah. Yeah,
it's
but
usually an audience tester or something of that nature.
Yeah, a tester. That's what I feel like she was going through at this point. And then of course, when Matt does this again, it's another thing. You're like, hey, Matt's an even bigger dick. Focus groups. Thank you, Darren. Yeah. So Matt's a douche, and then he mentions Chloe. So Meg, this is where Meg hears about Chloe for the first time, and it's obvious by her answer that she does not like Chloe. She knows who Chloe is, and she does not like her.
Right.
And then out of nowhere, Roger, our white knight to the rescue, yells Meg off screen.
And just runs straight up to her, like is actually running and has like huge energy,
like a little puppy dog, right? Like,
yeah,
it's so funny.
And
Yeah.
he just right there in front of Matt, not even recognizing Matt, just like says, "I had a wonderful time. Can I go on a date with you?" And she's like, "Yeah, great." And Roger asks for her phone to put in his number, and he does so. Then he realizes that to introduce himself to Matt. And then when Matt says, introduce his name, what is Roger's response?
Well, it's just so funny. Like she's putting in the number, and then Roger realizes that Matt's there, and he looks over. Hello, I am Roger. Matt just says his name. Matt. I know who you are. Meg's ex-boyfriend who wanted an open relationship. He just says it. It's so good, dude. Like no filter, right? Just says it. And then Matt looks shocked. Oh, like he's trying to decide whether to be offended. Meg blushes. Roger, fantastic. I will contact you within 24 hours. And he's just like a little puppy, dude. Like it's just so innocent. You can't be mad at him. Matt's flustered, flabbergasted, because he's way better looking than Matt is. Clearly, his ex-girlfriend's into him. And this dude isn't even flustered, barely notices he's there, and he's just so kind when he does introduce himself. You can't help but like him. It's like you're mad at him because he's too nice, right? He's too authentically good. So, I thought this whole exchange was great. Very clever, very fun, very well written.
And Matt is first one to point out, like, this guy's like a freak. You shouldn't go out with him. But it's done in a way where you can play it off as Matt is jealous or Matt really is thinking something's off with this guy. And
yeah, it could be either way.
It could be either way. But what's funny is that Meg kind of, Meg and Matt depart, and she wakes up and gets a text from Roger that had already happened saying, "Good morning, beautiful Meg. When can I take you out on a date?" I'm like, that's a little pushy.
Roger does not know the 24-hour or 40-hour rule. Whoever you talk to, like, you got to wait, right? Don't be too eager. He's instantly like, "Good morning, beautiful. When can I take you on a date?" Like, it's it's like, it's so sweet.
You can do the instant text thing where you exchange numbers and then you do hey to verify that everything is good, and then you're okay. I'll call you when my life opens up.
Yeah. And it depends on the person. I hated those games in college. Like if you're into them and they're into you, why wait? Right? It's stupid. Like don't be like texting her 15 times before midnight, of course. But if you want to text somebody the next morning and just say, "Hey, I had fun last night. Was just thinking about you on my way to class, whatever. Hope you're doing well." I think that's fine. And if the girl's going to be like, "Whoa, you're pushy" at that point, then I'd be like, "Yeah, she's definitely not into you." But I'm not going to go down the psychological path of dating and stuff. It's so stupid. I'll tell you this. I have no interest in getting back in the dating game ever again. I can't even imagine what it's like now, dude. No, thank you.
Probably a nightmare. I do have a couple of friends that are single. We do not talk about relationships as a rule, but I am morbidly curious, like, because I started, like, my current girlfriend, we were dating, but normal dating. Like, I just met her. Like, we took the same commute, and she slipped in front of me, and I caught her. And then that's kind of how our romance kind of began. But everybody I know that's single, they're using apps all the time trying to meet people
Yeah.
instead of like going in
Yeah.
person. And then some of the events that I do with a couple of my jobs, like that are open to the public. I'm like, I'm going to invite my single friends because maybe they'll find someone in person to meet. But there's this apprehension where everybody like kind of likes to stay in their own little groups. Even when you're at those big networking parties and stuff, it's like you don't grow, expand that way. It's always, and that's something I've seen constantly for, gosh, like better part of 15 years is you'll go to a network party and then everybody that knows everybody just kind of hobbles together and nobody talks to anyone else.
Yeah. That's what I mean. So I kind of like how in this story, that's what they did is they're like, nope, it's placed seating and you're going to sit where you sit and then you'll be forced to meet these other people. But to be honest, in hindsight, she just met one guy and we know later on we'll find out why. But anyway, so, okay, next day, Meg wakes up and what does she get us wake up to the next morning? Do you remember?
A middle-aged naked man who's wearing nothing but an apron.
Making breakfast or using the blender of all things too, which is like loud, super loud noise in the morning. I hate that.
It completely,
yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Completely unfazes Meg. She introduces him by saying, "Hey, Shane, morning, Meg." Like they know each other. This has been a thing.
Yeah, doesn't even care. Like just keeps on. Like it's just another day in the apartment, and I'm like, what? How is this normal? Some naked dude and making using the blender. Anyway, so it's Genevieve's boyfriend, correct?
Yeah, kind of. It's a sugar daddy of sorts. Yeah,
last sugar daddy. Yes. And then Meg, did he sleep over? Genevieve, what? And then she's like, did Shane sleep here? And Genevieve's like, no, he came for acupuncture. And Meg's like, why is he naked? And this is the part I'm reading this because it's so funny to me. Her response, Meg says, why is he naked? Genevieve shrugs, because we got it on. Geez, nosy. And I'm like, and this is what I said to you in the green room. I'm like, no, you don't get to be like mad that your roommate's quote unquote nosy when your date or your side piece is in the kitchen first thing in the morning, bare ass naked, right? Like, no, you don't get to play the card. Well, no, why are you being nosy? I'm like, no, you shoved your naked boyfriend into my face in my kitchen, so no, you don't get to accuse me of being nosy. But funny and very in character for Genevieve. Which again, I like Genevieve. We have a lot of her in this story, and I like her character. I think she's very believable. I think she's a good, would you say backdrop? I guess to Meg.
Foil. She's a good foil to Meg. Yeah, because they're good friends, but she's there to kind of give her a little reality dose here and there. Even though Genevieve herself could also use some reality.
Yeah, and yes, Genevieve's got her own problems for sure. But she kind of gets to be the what was it in the old Greek stories? What was that? Was it the muse? Was the one that would like kind of talk to the audience?
No, the chorus. Usually the chorus would be talking to the. Oh wait, no. There's the muse. There's the chorus.
No, the chorus. You're right. The chorus is what I'm thinking of, right? Because they would address the audience directly and kind of break the fourth wall in certain situations. Correct? Am I remembering that right?
Yeah.
Is that how it works?
Yeah, because it's usually it's not just one person. It's an actual chorus of people like in sync, saying something as if it's the universe speaking to that universe of the play speaking to the audience. And
the purpose of the chorus was to help connect the dots with certain things with the audience and
bridge certain things, right? Yeah. So. Yeah. Again, you have to remember, like, these stage plays weren't movies, which meant that not everybody could see the facial reactions of the actors, no matter how big they were. So the chorus was used to reinforce that. So if a person was feeling awkward, they would demonstrate that visually. If they didn't have a line, the chorus would say something to convey what that emotion is, and then the payoff would come usually from the actor. One of my favorite plays, Greek plays, Lysistrata, has a good chorus because it's just an absurd. It's basically like withholding sex to stop a war, and how difficult it is for women to do that.
Wow, I like that. It's intriguing.
Yeah, it's a comedy.
So on that note, that's kind of what I feel like Genevieve is in this story. She kind of plays a chorus where she helps. She says things to Meg that I would want to say to Meg, right? And she's not always that gentle about it, but that's what makes her interesting. If she was gentle, she'd be boring. And instead, she's kind of like, and then what makes her even more interesting is she's human and she's got flaws and she's got her own love life that's a mess that she has to figure things out. So anyway, sorry about that little tangent. It's just something I wanted to
that's a good one there because Genevieve is in the role of the best friend that's in a relationship with a married man who claims it's open and you know exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah. It won't end well.
I mean, I will say this: if someone were to write a very brilliant romantic comedy where the main character literally is the other woman and her boyfriend is married and trying to get out of a marriage, and it actually ends up being that fantasy that works at the end, it would be the most brilliant comedy ever, because it's be the first time where that thing actually is true to what the gimmick is. That, like, yes, I am literally trying to leave my wife for you. And it happens at the end, and you get that happily ever after. Then you do a post-credit scene. It's 20 years later, and he's like talking to a new girl. Yes, I'm literally trying to leave my current wife for the
happens again to her. The cycle repeats.
Yeah.
Cool. So back to the story. We meet Shane. We're going to see Shane several times throughout the script as well. So he's the side piece, older gentleman. It's Genevieve's sugar daddy, and he claims that him and his wife are in an open relationship, and his wife is totally fine with him, hooking up with this 28, 30-year-old.
She's a mid to late 20s. She's studying acupuncture. She's doing acupuncture at home, which she's not supposed to be doing. She hasn't graduated from the program, and at the same time, she's trying to get Shane to invest in her new company that she wants to start up when she graduates, instead of having her folks do it. And every time she kind of brings up her doing the pitch, Shane is like, "Yeah, I gotta go. I got an important appointment meeting." Or he has always some sort of excuse where he can't listen to it, which is clearly the telltale sign of, yes, I'm only interested in you for your youth and looks.
Right. Always too busy to actually get down to the money part, where it's his turn to return his part of the relationship that he promised. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty clear really early on that Genevieve's definitely got her issues, but she's fun. I like Genevieve. I think she's a good roommate. She's interesting, and she's a good contrast with Meg. Then Genevieve's like, well, I heard you gave some guy your number. And then Meg's like, oh crap, how much do you talk to Matt? Right. Cause that's the only way she could have known this. Right. And then Meg's like, well, he was so into me. It felt like he was about to sell me a timeshare or something, which I felt was perfect. That's a perfect synopsis of how he was acting. He was so into her. He was super nice. He was super kind. He talked a little weird. So he probably wants to sell you a timeshare in Las Vegas or something. Genevieve's like, that's just your trust issues flaring up. Why wouldn't a hot guy be into you? And so, Meg's like, definitely, okay, yeah, I guess maybe I'll use him as a palate cleanser, which I don't agree with that mindset, but I understand it. Meg could use a rebound, basically, right? That's what we're talking about. And especially a hot one like Roger.
I mean, the other part too is Genevieve is saying, sometimes you just need a palate cleanser, someone to clean out the old pipes. And as soon as she finishes saying this, what happens? Well, he gets a text on her phone, sushi, 7 p.m.
Yep. As we were just talking about pipes. So here we go. That's great. Good job. Good writing. I see what you did there. So then we see next scene. We see Meg lying in bed in her underwear, smiling as she texts with Roger. She is excited for this date. She is prepping every inch of her body. She's going to go all out and go in for it. I laughed. I highlighted this. I laughed and lost it when we see a jar of something called butt musk that Meg shrugs and smears it on her butt.
Yeah, I guess it's one of Genevieve's things. I'm like, I don't know what that is.
Okay, yeah, but that was funny. So bottom line is this. We see she even waxes her mustache. So she is, she's doing everything up to the nines, right, for this date with this supermodel man. We're excited to see where this date goes. And then what happens next, Script?
Well, they meet outside this sushi restaurant, which for Meg looks quite expensive. And Roger gives her these giant sunflowers on the date. They're like 3 feet in length. Which reminded me of the cotton candy joke from Super Troopers. But yeah, she's got this little stock of sunflowers, which Roger finds, of course, like to be as beautiful and breathtaking as Meg.
Well, just the
And
opening line, the first thing he says with the flowers, "Good evening, beautiful Meg." Just
yeah,
like that. Just it's such a simple, it's four words, but the way they're put together is just like a little, it's just a little off-putting, right? Good evening, beautiful Meg.
it's a weird place to put that adjective.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Keep going. Sorry.
Excuse me. So in this point here, like we find out that this sushi place is like the one of Roger's favorites, and Meg openly says, "If you don't mind, I'm not really in the mood for sushi." And he's like, "Oh, that's no problem. What type of cuisine do you prefer?" This takes us to a simple, cheap pizza place where they're hanging outside on like the bench and eating their own slices. And Roger's got pepperoni, and Meg has the Canadian invention of pizza, Hawaiian. And there's a conversation where Meg's enjoys the pizza, even though it's controversial.
Yeah, and Roger's like, Roger's never heard of it. He's like, "What kind of pizza is that? I've never heard of it." And then Meg's like, "How have you not? You know, it's weird to her. How have you not heard of Hawaiian style pizza with Canadian bacon and pineapple, right?"
Yep. And he tries it. He's like, "Wow, this is an unexpected combination," which everybody who tries it says. Whether it's a positive or negative, they usually say it's an unexpected combination.
It's not my favorite by any means, but every once in a while I might have a bite. But yeah, I love pineapple and I love Canadian bacon, but you put them together on pizza, and I'm just like, no.
But if you mix it up with a little bit of like bacon, jalapenos, and maybe a little bit of a small little bit of barbecue sauce, not a lot, just enough, like a little drizzle. Ooh, it hits all the flavor spectrums.
I'll tell you this right now. If it's pizza, I'll try it. I'll try anything once. I love pizza. It's my favorite food.
I tried an eggplant pizza, which is actually not too bad. So
I would try it. I try a bite. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I think the date's going pretty well. He's definitely still, I thought maybe once he got more comfortable, his linguistics, his language, his style of framing words would be better, but it's just him.
This is at this point. I'm like,
yeah, this is.
Oh, he starts quoting Haruki Murakami, who is I guess a Asian novelist who's got all these philosophical quotes for him, and we discover that Roger has a roommate named Steve, and they spend their time when they're not working kind of talking about this Haruki Murakami.
They're huge fans. They read, and Roger quotes him a lot. We're gonna get a lot of quotes. There's like at least 8 or 10 quotes in here, probably
minimum. Yeah.
Yeah. And so so we learned that Roger's, I guess you could say educated, like most people don't read these books at this level, but he remembers them very well and quotes them. And so it's another layer of Roger that we're kind of like interesting, right? And it impresses her too. Meg's like, "Oh, that's cool," and
Roger finds Steve to be the best roommate he's ever had. And it's delivered in such a way that it's very earnest here, which always raises a little bit of a flag, because there's the people that are generally nice people, and then there's the people who are trying to be nice. And sometimes when you read the lines of Rogers, it feels almost like he's trying to be nice, but then as soon as we get a situation where you think, oh, he could probably say something mean here, it doesn't even he never goes in that direction. And that's where the more peculiarities and the whole Matt's impression of him being like a freak, and even Genevieve kind of thinking, yeah, he's a little off.
It's that childlike kindness, right, is what it is, and it is sincere, but it could be very easily misread as weird or creepy, where it's like, oh, you're just telling me what you think I want to hear. You're being overly polite, therefore you must have some ulterior motive, right? That's what it's like. And at this point, a group of drunk girls, what do they call them? The woo girls from How I Met Your Mother. That's how I always picture it. A group of woo girls that go woo whenever they get drunk. Yep. Shows up, and one of the drunk girls comes over, and she's like, looks at Roger, and she's like, "Excuse me, are you famous?" And Roger's like, "Pardon me?" Again, ever the polite gentleman. Drunk girl, "I swear I've seen you in something. Are you an actor?" Roger, "Sorry, ma'am, you must be confusing me with someone else." Drunk girl, wailing, "You're so hot." Her friends cackle behind her. Meg looks pleased but wary. She puts her hand on Roger's arm. Meg, "Let's get out of here." And that's the end of that scene. So yeah, I thought that was a nice little thing, just to reinforce. Don't forget, Roger's super hot. These other women are like like so enthralled by him that they'll come over and do this, right? They go out of their way to interact with him because he's so attractive.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, it's
yeah.
also funny because I've seen those situations before. I've seen the ones where generally strangers are coming up, acting drunk because they are interfering with, a couple on the street, and then the other ones where nope, they're not strangers. They're friends of the person that's one of the people that's out on the date, and they're coming in there to check on their friend to make sure that they're okay, and they're doing it in the most obnoxious way possible.
hmm Yeah, yeah, and it's always fun to like be an outsider watching those interactions, right? Because it's going to be entertaining for sure. Um, so yeah, so they ditched the pizza place, which I love that. I love that it's just you don't need to get more complicated for a cute little scene for a couple than a
Mhm.
pizza place. Like it's awesome. It's just so traditional and so good. And then here we are. Meg's still carrying. Yeah, I forgot. Right, don't forget. She's still packing this huge bundle of flowers, these sunflowers, right,
Yep.
down the sidewalk. When I first saw that in that scene, he shows up with them. I'm like, yeah, what is she gonna do with these on their whole date? Like now she has to babysit these flowers the whole time, right? It's awkward.
Yep.
But Roger's like, this is what I'm supposed to do. I give a girl flowers. And then let's see. I need
Well,
to read
this is
ahead.
where we get some transparency from Meg for the first time, who's like, I would have loved, like, because Roger says, I'd really like to take you out to some sushi. It's my favorite cuisine. And she's like, I would love that, but I can't really afford it right now. And Roger's initial response is, obviously, I would have paid for it. And, Meg's in that thing, I didn't want to assume. But it looks like they kind of are getting into a start of something interesting, because as soon as they get outside of Genevieve's apartment, Genevieve and Meg's apartment, she starts describing, hey, would you like to come up? And he's like, I would love nothing more than to come up.
Yeah, yeah. And so he's a gentleman. He's like, "Are you sure?" And she's like, "Yeah, if you want to, that's okay." And then Roger stares into her eyes. I mean, this is all very well written, right? Again, not overly descriptive, which a
Mhm.
lot of writers fall into. It's just enough that you feel what you should in the scene. And so Roger's like, "I'd love nothing more," like what you said. And then Meg mimics him back. She's like, "I too would love nothing more." And then we cut up to the apartment, right? So she's playfully bantering with him. She's like, and I can see it, right? When you have the actress deliver it, she copies his cadence and probably it's a little flat, not totally flat like a robot, but
Mhm.
but in the ballpark, right? And so again, we're seeing how much you can get away with. Not that he was horrible by any means, but it's definitely his looks are doing the heavy lifting for everything in their quote unquote relationship at this point. So, but yeah, he's polite, he's kind, but he's a little weird, and not so weird that she's afraid to bring him up to his apartment, though, right?
That's right. Just the right tolerance of weirdness. She gives him
Yep.
the tour of the apartment. We get a bit more description of Meg's room. It's kind of tackily decorated, but she's got a whole bunch of like whale cutouts from magazines and photos all over the walls. Christmas lights around
And
the window,
and David
and
Duchovny on the ceiling.
David Duchovny on the ceiling from X Files.
I love that. It's so good. Yeah. So, she's another how it's described. Like she's basically, you could tell she's decorated it. Is it because she really likes this stuff, or is it because she's just trying to cover up how ugly the rest of the apartment is, right?
Right. And so yeah, they're kind of she's trying to instigate some romantic tension. Some romantic action under the tension. And this is where they get their first kiss, which is quite comical. It's described as Roger presses his closed mouth to hers. It's like he's never kissed anyone before, like when you make two Barbies kiss. Meg is confused.
Yeah, she thinks it's a joke because of course she would. He's super hot. He's not a child, right? He's a grown ass man,
Mhm.
and this is how he kisses you. He just presses his mouth to yours, and nothing else happens. So of course you're gonna be like, "Oh, he's messing with me," right?
Yeah.
But nope, that's not. It's just Roger trying to figure it out.
And
So,
what's
yeah.
funny
Yeah,
is like, so
good.
she starts to undress, and then she gets on top of him, and Roger takes a cue, and he starts to undress, and he's got this perfectly ripped torso, and Meg's like, "Wow, do you work out?" And his response is, "Not really. Sometimes Steve and I do pull-ups in the park."
Oh, and by the way, I like pizza. Like it could have been just another random comment like that, dude. And
Yep.
it's so he's just so a little bit off, right? And
And
yeah.
and apparently, like they have sex, and it's described in one line, and I think it's brilliant. It's technically fine, but a bit detached and clinical.
Yeah, and right before that, even Roger, he's like, "What should I do now, Meg?" And she's like, "I want you to stop asking me that." Because what a mood killer, right? Is like, what do I do now? Well, what do I do now? What do I do now? I can totally see, like, I could see them like having some fun with this when they're shooting this, right, on set. That they let them ad lib a little bit, right, for the awkwardness, and I could see the actors having some fun with this. So yeah, technically fine. What every guy wants to hear, right? Scripts, you were technically fine.
Technically fine. A bit detached and clinical, but technically fine.
Yeah, dude.
I mean,
I like it. I like
to
it.
me, I would say this is how I would write a scene if of a woman just turned on a vibrator or something. It's like it did the job, but it's very detached and clinical.
Well, yeah, and then Meg gets on top. So after that happens, right? They have sex, and then this is what's interesting. So Meg gets on top. She closes her eyes, trying to get into it, and then Roger, you're so beautiful, Meg. Thanks, Roger. Would you like to tell me how you're currently feeling? God, no. Okay. Like it just gets worse. Like, but it's so funny. So yeah, again, this script, man, it was really good. I think it keeps surprising me. I think that's what I like about it. Roger, you think you kind of got it figured out, but Roger really is the wild card. Like one more thing he says or does, and you just can't quite figure it out. Like, is he an alien? Is he a ghost? Is he like, what is happening? Right? Like,
Is he going to turn into a werewolf or something?
yeah. There's something definitely going on. And then so they finish everything up. And they're lying there, and then as soon as she opens her eyes, Roger, I want to take you to Big Sir. Meg, why Big Sir? like that's the first thing. He's like staring at her. She opens her eyes, and that's what he says, right?
Yep.
I want to take you to Big Sir. So we know from the opening scene that Big Sir is where that happened, right?
Is
like
where the first guy vanished. Yeah.
dissolved into a fog. So now we can connect that Roger is either the same guy in a new body, right? Or he's a different guy that's on the same trajectory, is going to have the same ending.
Yeah,
that was my
he's from the
assumption.
same, whatever he is, whatever, if this is a subspecies or something, whatever he is of the same of the Alan guy that we saw at the start.
Yeah.
So dramatic irony moment with people. Like we now know what's going on here a little bit more than Meg does. And
right.
I like how he describes, like, it's his favorite place. And it's later revealed, but I've never been there before.
Yeah. And it's so funny. He knows it so well, but yeah, he hasn't been there before. And then here we go. This is what you don't say after you finally hook up with this girl that you've known for, I don't know, 3 hours total. You're the most amazing woman I've ever met. I think I'm falling for you.
Like,
oh,
wow.
dude.
Pressure,
Oh,
huh?
dude. Oh, dude, no, you shouldn't have done. Now you're in trouble. And so Roger, what do you think? Did he say too much? Did he overplay his hand at this point?
Of course, yeah, absolutely. You don't ever say that after the first night.
Especially 3 minutes after you just finished. So yeah, and then Meg responds. She's like, "Well, I like you too." This poor Meg, dude. After we saw her like totally get like the rudely open honestness from that first Tinder date, to this, like this, yeah, just poor Meg, man, poor Meg. I feel like we have an incredible connection, like it was destiny that we found each other at that dinner. Meg sits up. Meg, Roger, I think this is moving a little fast for me. Roger, what do you mean? Meg, I just got out of a relationship. I don't want to jump into something super serious. Roger, I understand perfectly, Meg. Would you like me to sleep over, or would you prefer that I leave? Oh man, I would. This could be so fun with the right actors, dude. This would be so fun to watch.
It really would, and we're gonna do a little jump over here of some other stuff, because I want to get a little bit into like Genevieve and Shane's little part here, and then also actually before we do a jump over, we gotta follow Roger back to his apartment and meet Steve.
Oh yes. Oh my gosh. How much do we want to describe it? You want to skip over?
He's in
I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay, well, let's do the basics. Well, he's in a kind of a janky apartment in a seedy part of town, which doesn't belie his appearance nor his fashion, or his money. And
Yes.
It's called
It's
like
very weird.
the Tenderloin District is where he's in.
Yeah.
And he's greeted by a sex worker who offers him some pleasure, and he's like, not tonight, but thank you.
Yeah. Hey, Roger. Good evening, Linda. Would you like me to do this thing for you? Not tonight. Thank you. And he just walks by. Like,
Yeah.
dude, it's so good. It's so interesting. Okay, then what? What happens next?
Then we get this. We find out that Steve and Roger are very much alike. They are physically different looking, but of course, very handsome, very athletic. Steve asks after Steve asks the question about how the date went. He then follows up with, "Did you achieve sex?"
What might be the best line of this whole script? Did you achieve sex? This is like Mork and Mindy, dude. Okay, so Roger nods, grinning. Steve, that's fantastic. I knew you could do it, buddy. They hug. Steve, would you like me to assist you with the swabbing? Swabbing, like swabbing the dick. Roger, yes, please. And then what happens? You do this because I don't know what the rules are on
So
YouTube.
Roger
What
drops his trousers, and Steve has a swab out, and he's running it along Roger's genitals like it's the most normal thing in the world.
I read this to my girlfriend, and she just looks at me over the couch like, what the hell are you reading? It was so funny. Oh my gosh. Do you think you'll bring Meg to Big Sur? Roger, I hope so. Steve, I have a second date with Cassidy tomorrow. At this rate, maybe we'll be there at the same time. Roger, that would be amazing.
And
so
then
now we're like, who are these two people? What is happening? They're clearly on the same mission with women, but what's the end game, right? We know the rest of it because we saw it in the opening scene.
yeah,
But
like how do you get to the
what's
middle
end
part?
game?
And then what's the byproduct of all that? Because we
Right.
cut to a little later. Roger and Steve, they, as far as I can tell, they're fully clothed, but they're lying together on. They pushed up their beds together, which is has the apartment always been, and they're just kind of lying and spooning with each other.
They're spooning,
but
yeah,
they're talking about the women that they're in love with.
It's so funny. They're just sitting there, talking about it. Yeah. So yeah, and then Steve, and here's the thing that was really interesting to me. They have their backstories, right? They're talking about that. So
Yep.
Steve says, I grew up on a ranch in Montana. My father was stern but loving in his way. One day, I assisted my father in birthing a calf who grew into a beautiful cow we called Daisy. You know what this is written like? This is written like a fourth grader or a third grader who enters a writing competition, right?
Yeah, it's got
And
a
they're just-
juvenile innocence to it.
Yeah, they're so direct, but it's not terrible, but it's just very what's the word I'm looking at? Not punctuated, but like truncated. Like it's
yeah.
truncated dialogue. And so it works. It just it feels childish. And so kudos to the writer who wrote this because she did a fantastic job with all this. Roger, you're lucky. I barely knew my father. So we hear a little bit more of their memories of their backstory, right? Of where they came from. And at this point when I read this, I'm still thinking like why do they talk so funny if they're from Montana and Florida?
Yeah,
Right?
they
Like,
should be talking so similarly. Like that's one part.
Right, and it's totally normal to them. But there's this naivete to their points of view, and it comes out in their descriptions and in their responses that you're like, okay, yeah, there's something clearly weird, but nothing threatening, nothing evil. I'm not getting like, is this going to turn into a slasher movie or something, right? None of that is here.
Yeah, and it doesn't go
there-
Bram Stoker's Dracula or anything like that. Which is,
Yeah. So, and then here we get another quote. This quote is, memories warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart. Roger, he is so wise. So it's weird. We have this dichotomy of like, they're very childish and childlike, but then they're like quoting this deep, is it Japanese philosopher?
I think he's
Was he
Japanese. Yeah,
it sounds Japanese. So so it's weird, right? Like they're so into this book, so they're not if they're so childish in their brains, they wouldn't be able to they have no interest in reading this deep dialogue or this deep, psychological type book, but yet they do. So it's like, it's really interesting. And I wonder if she wrote this on purpose to show like, there's this they're not dumb. How do I show the audience that they're not just like kids in adult bodies?
yeah, that they're looking to grow. Even though they probably should have like figured out who they are at this age. Like that's something that's pretty interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, because this doesn't happen. These quotes and them quoting this Japanese philosopher isn't by mistake. And so the writer had to do that. And I think that's probably what she was doing. She's like, I need to show that there's more maturity. There's a lot more going on than them just being like, hey, I need to get laid and get these. So anyway. Very fascinating, very good. And then now we're gonna cut over to Genevieve. That was the part you wanted to get to.
Yeah, because Genevieve's in this really elaborate condo. She and Shane have spent the night together. She's trying to convince him to listen to our presentation, and he's like, "Oh, I gotta go." But I've discussed my business plan. She wants to discuss the business plan before he goes. And Shane
what do you think about their nicknames that they had for each other? I didn't quite get that. Did I miss something? Because Shane calls her Bella and Genevieve calls him Grazy.
No, it's beautiful. Thank you.
Is that all that is?
I think so.
Okay. All right.
Because I think, because Shane, Shane makes coffee. Yeah. They're doing coffee and cappuccinos and stuff, and she's going into her pitch, and he's like, "Oh, you're putting me to work." It's like, it'll only take 5 minutes, and then she smiles flirtatiously and says, "I'll do it topless." and Shane's like, "Tempting, but I'm already late. Have patience on my little business bee," and then kisses her forehead and takes off. And this is him kind of just getting out of Dodge. When Genevieve returns home, Meg is in the kitchen making juice, and of course Genevieve's curiosity is like, "Well, how is Roger?" And Meg's immediate response is, "I do not want to talk about it." Did he cleanse your palace? Like, yeah, but it was weird. He's coming on way too strong, saying we're destined to be together. Of course, Genevieve takes like, "It sounds romantic," and then Meg, "No, it's more like it's insane. He asked me to go on a trip with him to Big Sur, and he's texted me 4 times this morning."
Yeah, she shows Genevieve her phone, 4 texts from Roger, and here they are. "Good morning, beautiful Meg. How did you sleep? I had a wonderful time last night. When can I see you again?" Now, any one of those things just by themselves, no big deal, right? But 4 of them,
like right after another, yeah.
Yeah. So Genevieve, wow, he's obsessed with you. Meg, how did it go with Shane? She just wants to. Clearly, she's like, she got her pipes cleaned, and he's like way too strong. She's like, she pulled the ripcord basically at this point, right?
Yeah. And of course, Genevieve lies to Meg, saying, "Yeah, I showed him my business plan. I think he's close to investing." Poor girl. She doesn't see what the rest of the world sees. He's just using her for his own pleasure. But now we find out what Roger does for a living, because he's at a dog park. He sits on a bench, on a laptop, and he's writing an email. And we get to see what the email says. And it says, "Good morning, sirs. I regret to inform you that we have hacked your business website. We are willing to refrain from destroying your site's reputation for a small fee. The current fee is 1,500 in bitcoins, BTC."
Yep.
And
then his phone rings. So hold on before we get to the phone call. So yeah, at this point we're like, okay, so he's clearly is a scammer,
yes.
Right? So at this point I thought, is he pretending to talk this way? Does this work for him with women or something? But then I remembered his roommate, when no other women were around, they still talked like this, right?
Yes.
So it's like, no, this is how he is. So what is going on, and what is with the scam thing? Is this just a way he found to make money? And he gets a phone call. It's his boss, and now we're about to get some more information on what is going on with Roger and who he is.
And so his boss calls him, and we find out that the swab that was taken earlier was mailed to Kirill. For what purposes? Russia. In Russia. For what purposes? We don't know. We don't know why they would want any of that, but they have it.
In fact, hold on.
Yep.
I've read the whole script, and I still don't know why they did that. Do you?
No, I have no clue why they did that.
Okay, well, I just want to make sure that's very clear for the audience, you guys. We read the whole script, and we still don't know why this happened. So maybe something got edited out, and it's in a 3rd or 4th draft.
Maybe.
But anyway, keep going.
Yeah, it's just that weird part. But of course, Kirill
is asking. It could be a mislead.
It could be a mislead.
You at this point in the story be like, what is happening? Why do they need her DNA? Do they need like, whatever? But just to get that, just for that scene of his roommate swabbing him, and it'd be like the equivalent of high-fiving your roommate when you come home, right? That's how normal it was for these two. Is so bizarre. It's worth it, right? Like it was so funny. Okay, sorry, keep going.
So of course, Kirill is asking him how his date with Megan Johnson went. Of course, Roger is chatting her up, saying that she's an amazing woman, and this is where we learn from Kirill that we understand for Roger, it's been very difficult for him to find a match. And Roger's been doing this for a little bit of a while because we skipped over a little bit, but Roger had another roommate. Alan was his roommate beforehand, before Steve. And Alan hasn't returned, so now he's got the new roommate, Steve. So we get the understanding that Roger's been kind of trying to connect with a woman before meeting Meg. Now he's found Meg, and he's kind of locked onto her. And before he ends his call, Kirill tells him to send 500 more emails before the end of the day and raise our rate to 1,700 Bitcoin because of inflation.
Hey, got to make money, got to get paid. Quick side note: Alan was the guy in the opening scene of the film. He was the one that we saw transcend. So we know where he went. And, Roger kind of knows where he went too, but I'm not sure if we've gotten into that just yet. But yeah, but we see that I like the inflation thing is like, after all, inflation, right? Like it's so funny. And I picture the guy on the phone having a Russian accent. Is that how you heard it too?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Kirill. I'm not sure how you say it.
Kirill.
Yeah.
But then we see how kind of still innocent in a approach Roger is, because a beagle dog approaches, and he leans over and pets it, and then takes a photo of it, sending it to Meg. Meg then forwards it to Genevieve, who replies, "Wow, that's a thirsty boy."
Yeah, well, this was so good because the way they do this, the cut over to from Roger over to Meg was really good. They used the photo, so we travel through through the cell phones or through the internet with Meg with the photo to Meg, and I kind of like that. That was a really quick cutaway. The way you could edit that could be really fun. And one thing I would say of note before we move on is that this interaction with his boss, it's really interesting because we don't see a mask slip from Roger as a character.
No.
We don't see, no one's around. It's me answering to my boss. Oh yeah, I'm going to get her. This woman has no idea what she's in store for. There was none of that. He was still the exact same dude with his boss as he is when he's with her. And I found that fascinating. I'm like, so he's not putting on an act. This is how he is.
Yeah.
So again, another layer of what the F is going on, right? What is this? Is he, at this point, I'm thinking he's an android or he's an alien, right? That's what I'm thinking. Those are the two best guesses. Go ahead.
And for whatever reason, they're being used by Russian, their assets to Russia. For whatever reason, we don't know the details of it yet. But later in the park, we've got Steve shows up, recounting how him and his date Cassidy had the most amazing brunch, and he tried a cinnamon roll for the first time, and then asked,
have you ever heard of cinnamon roll? Have you ever had a cinnamon roll? Again, this is back to the pizza, the Hawaiian pizza, right? It's no, I haven't had this. So how do these guys have so little experience when they're 30, almost 30 years old, right?
Where have they been living? They've just been eating corn and beans their entire life.
Yeah, exactly. Because Florida and Montana, you can't tell me that you haven't been around cinnamon rolls, right? It's so weird. But I love, again, it's that childlike wonder where they're like, oh my gosh, have you had a cinnamon roll? It's so good.
And then Roger lays it out that Meg has not been responding to his recent messages. Steve asks to take a look. And as he scrolls through the message, Steve is like, "Oh, no, Roger, you're going about this all wrong. If you want to regain her interest, you need to ignore her and wait for her to come to you." And Roger, most innocent puppy dog way, says, "How could I ignore her? I love her."
Oh, Steve, it's the only way. And don't tell her you love her, not until you're sure she feels the same way. Steve slaps Roger's knee. Come on, buddy, let's do some pull-ups. Just kind of slapping your son and being like, come on, get up, walk it off. You can do it. Let's go. So sure enough, they go over, they start doing pull-ups. And then what happens?
Well, they take off their shirts. They start doing pull-ups. and then people just start gathering around them to watch because they're not stopping. Like they're just going like machines.
Yep, and so everyone's taking pictures, like enjoying it. These two dudes with their shirts off, just doing. It sounds like a Saturday Night Live skit, dude. That's what it sounds like at this point. It's so funny. It's like
yeah,
Hans
from like the late
Hans
80s.
and Franz.
Yeah,
Hans and Franz. I remember Hans and Franz.
Hans
those
and Franz.
two characters. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, I love it. Again, it just keeps building. This is just a slow build, right? Like I never felt like any of these scenes were wasted. Like they didn't further the plot or the story of the characters. It was always for a reason. It kept pulling me along. Like, why are they doing this? Why are they talking this way? Why are they doing pull-ups again? Why is his roommate so good at understanding the proper way to date women, but he doesn't, right? Like, so because you'd think if they were androids, they'd all have the same programming or whatever, right? They would all act and react the same way.
Yeah,
but
they'd be indistinguishable. You're right.
Yeah, but clearly they are unique, right? They are unique because he's sucking at it. In fact, at one point, remember, doesn't Roger make a comment about being rusty in dating? Like he hadn't tried it in a while or something. I remember that line was in
there was
somewhere.
Something about that he was rusty from the start. Eventually, well, Meg is kind of just eating noodles and watching a show on her laptop. She decides to jump into her phone, hearts the picture of the dog, and then responds, "Haha, so cute. Sorry, busy day." And she doesn't hear from him for a couple of days, and some time passes, and then Genevieve wants to, take out Meg and head out to a bar just to do something, and one of their friends named Hugo, who is Genevieve's friend at the acupuncture school, is desperate to meet Roger.
yeah, because he's a gay dude. He's like, I want to meet this dude. he sounds very, very handsome. Yeah.
So they go to the bar. They're not having the best of times, but while they're at the bar, we go back to Roger and Steve's room, and Steve is still helping out Roger. Funny. And Roger is doing a Google search of women in hat. And to him, looking at these photos is the same as if he were as if a teenage boy was looking at porn.
Hold up, let me. It's so funny. Let me read it exactly as it is in the script. He's done a Google image search, quote, "woman in hat," end quote. He peruses the results, stock photos of fully clothed women smiling and wearing various styles of hat. This is Roger's version of porn. How do you convey that, though? How do you put that on the screen and convey to the audience that this is his idea of porn, right? Like, it's so funny.
Like, you'd have to go from, like, a neutral face to, like, a very, like, enamored face, and both his hands have to be holding the phone.
Like, he's getting super worked up. Like, just these stock images of women in hats, dude, fully clothed. Oh, it's so funny, man. Again, another layer of what WTF, right? Like, what is... Roger, what are you? Who are you, dude? Anyway, Roger, it's Friday night. Maybe I should see what Meg's doing. Steve, wait a little longer. She needs to fear she's lost your interest so that she'll work to reignite it. Women enjoy playing games. Roger, but how will she know I'm still available? Steve, she won't know for sure. That's the beauty of it. Like, dude, Steve's a player. He like knows how to play the game.
He definitely knows how to play the game. But then we find out that Steve is going to be going up to Big Sur. And Roger's like, "Oh, Kirill will be pleased, but I'll miss you terribly." And Steve's like, "Well, I want to help you with Meg before I go. Is it possible your technique was off?" And this is where he says, "I might have been a bit rusty." And then Steve offers, "Would you like to practice kissing? I have a few minutes before my date." Roger's response, "That would be helpful." And we proceed to go through.
The way they talk is so clinical, dude. It's just like, "Oh, would you like me to want me to show you how to?" Yeah, I don't know. It's just so fun. Keep going.
Well, I mean, I don't go into describe it in too much detail, but it's actually very kind of harmless, just weird, because these two men are kissing, and Roger's bad at it, and Steve is like saying, "Put your tongue in my mouth and pretend it's melting." And so they start to like.
What does
find
that
a
even
rhythm.
mean? Pretend it's melting. What does that mean?
I don't know. But they're getting into a rhythm that's Roger's like understanding, and then Steve's phone dings, and he abruptly stops, pulls away. He's like, "That's Cassidy. I have to leave for my date," and he's so excited, and then just leaves. And of course, Roger's like, "I wish you the best of luck and thank you," and that's the last we see of Steve.
I wish you the best of luck. Like, it was like instantly just changing channels, right? Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like, okay, like nothing like it was all function, no no romance.
Zero emotion.
Zero
Zero
emotion.
emotion. Yeah. No emotion.
And so we cut back to the bar where Megan and Genevieve are there with Hugo, and everybody's kind of canoodling. Even Hugo and Genevieve are kind of cuddling together. And then Genevieve invites Matt and Chloe to come in, which stimulates Meg to say, "I'll finally invite Roger." And Roger shows up almost instantly because he was in the area. Had no idea Meg was there, just in the area.
Yeah, but it makes for a fun little intro because then Meg's already like a little because they're weirded out by or she's weirded out by him. He's unsure if he's playing the game right, and then he just shows up super fast, which was a fun way to have a little conflict, instant little extra conflict when he walks in the door. But of course, he's just he just gets your guard down so quickly because he's so innocent. I'm scrolling down. What was his first line when he walked in the door?
Oh, it was when his first line when he sees the group is like, "You must be Hugo. You're Genevieve, Meg's best friend and roommate. It's a pleasure to meet you both." Very.
Yeah, he doesn't just say their name. He's like he says their description. Yeah, it's so funny. Genevieve, you too. Hugo, where are you from, Roger? This is really funny. Again, the dialogue is my favorite part of this whole script with Roger. I grew up in Florida. My childhood was not without hardship, but adversity shaped me into the man I am today. Genevieve, wow, sorry to hear about the hardship. Hugo and Genevieve smirk at each other. Meg looks self-conscious. Hugo, why'd you move here? Roger, I came for a job at a local technology company. I work in digital communications. Genevieve, what company? Roger, I'm not able to disclose the name. Genevieve, why not? Meg, Jen, chill out. So Meg intervenes, right? Yeah. But he's so, I love that first line when he was like, my childhood was not without hardship, but adversity shaped me into the man I am today. Like, who says that? Who talks like that, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But
it's so funny.
It makes it pretty awkward until Chloe and Matt show up. And what's funny is that Chloe, while younger and better looking than Meg, starts to try and flirt a little bit with Roger, but Roger just does not reciprocate at that same level. But they do talk about something interesting, which is that Chloe has a tattoo that says "I am," which is a reference to Sylvia Plath's The Bell Jar. And they just have a little conversation about that, which of course irks Matt even more because now this super hot guy is under his perception trying to take his current girlfriend. and then we get a nice little twist about Matt that comes by way of Chloe through their entire group conversation, which is that Chloe hasn't been to this one location before. Her and Matt were planning to go in January to like Tahoe, and something came up, and then Meg's like, January. And it's clearly summer right now, so Chloe and Matt were clearly fooling around at that time, and then she takes
long before their breakup,
long before the breakup. Meg, of course, takes Genevieve aside. They start talking about it and saying like, Meg, Genevieve, how long have you known that Matt and Chloe were things? She's like, what are you talking about? They haven't been that thing. She's like, she just mentioned January, and they both look at each other for a long moment, processing, and they're like, yeah, that's what I thought.
Which if you've ever been in a similar situation is another stab to your heart because it's someone who's your friend who you now discovered that they knew about your boyfriend, girlfriend cheating on you for months and they didn't tell you.
Well,
right?
no, that's not what this scene was.
It's a betrayal.
No, the scene was more, Genevieve didn't know that Matt and Chloe were together since January. She has to make a commitment because even Genevieve is like, well, okay, so you told me that you and Matt were just roommates by the end. Honestly, I was surprised you were so sad about the breakup, and this is where you get the conflict here because it's like Genevieve kind of knew but didn't know that far and how long it's been going on, type of thing.
Because I read that as Genevieve did know that about January, right? But she didn't bring it up to Meg, which was a betrayal to Meg. Meg was hurt that she didn't tell her about that.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Anyway,
I just read it as like Genevieve knew, just didn't know it went back that far.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Either way, it's just more conflict. We see that Meg's hurt. She keeps getting kicked. Right, we're kicking the crap out of our protagonist, which
Oh yeah.
keeps it interesting, which is good. And it further also makes us hate Matt even more because he's a douche that's been cheating on her for at least, well, yeah, figure around 6 months, right? That at
Something
least
like that.
at
Yeah.
least. So let's see. I'm on page 53.
Oh, well, they get into a fight over this, and of course Meg's like, "Do me a favor, stay out of my business." And
Oh yeah,
even Genevieve's like, "Fine, but when Roger winds up screwing you over, don't say I didn't warn you," because even Genevieve is starting to see that Roger's kind of
he's
odd.
he's weird. He's weird. Yeah. So her antenna's up, and she's like telling her, "Hey Meg, I think he's weird too." And then now that they had a fight, though, Meg isn't going about to be like, "Oh, thank you for caring," right? She's like, "No, just stay out of my business." And yeah, that's how she grabs Roger and they take off, and we end that scene.
Yeah, and of course Meg and Roger kind of leave the bar, and Meg's apologizing to Roger for how her friends were acting. Roger doesn't pick up on it, but then he gives us another Murakami quote, which what lasts lasts, what doesn't. Time solves most things, and what time can't solve, you have to solve yourself. And Meg jokingly says that guy's got a quote for everything.
Yeah, and then, honestly, she's saying what we're thinking, right? Like, why does he keep quoting this guy? He's like, it keeps coming up. And then Meg asks if he thinks that Chloe is pretty because of course, Roger being Roger, Chloe is a beautiful woman, but in my opinion, you are more beautiful, and I prefer you overall, as we've formed an emotional connection. Great. Every woman's like wonderful what she wants to hear, right? Meg rests her head on Roger's shoulder, so it was enough, right? She's probably not too focused on what he's saying as much as it is makes her feel, right? Roger, this speech is very different. Oh, go ahead.
Well, it's Roger being a very comforting person, but it's also very affirmative in his language, and we do get another little aspect about how, what happened with Meg's mom, how when she passed away, her father kind of remarried relatively quick from a woman that they knew at church, which was weird because Meg always found that her father never had much interest in going to church before until after his mother passed away. Roger shares a story about getting bit by a jellyfish, nearly dying.
Yeah, almost dying, which is very interesting. That he has that memory. Yeah. And I like that about Meg too. Yeah, because we see that, and Roger picks up on it that he's like, oh, you feel like you feel like your father betrayed your mother's memory or betrayed you by moving on so quickly, right? Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, this is good. This is good character building without it feeling forced in any way. It's just these two having a very organic, natural conversation in the right place at the right time. So none of it feels like exposition that's just getting slapping you in the face.
No,
right? I love it.
It feels like a date where they're starting to be vulnerable with each other. Because we learned that after Meg's mother passed away, she moved out to San Francisco to study nursing, but ended up at the eye bank instead. And this is where Roger says, I used to work in healthcare too. And we find out that he worked in hospice center where he cared for people in their last days. And
yes.
I mean, Meg remarks that's a tough job. And he said, I considered it to be a great honor. And of course, when Meg asks, why'd you change careers? He's like, it's hard to remember. I suppose there was another plan for me. And they kind of end up having a little romp in the beach. And then they head back to their apartment where everything kind of goes much better for Meg and Rogers.
Steve's lessons paid dividends.
Yes.
And Meg reaped the rewards, and they have a great passionate session there.
Yeah, and now they're kind of in an actual relationship, and we follow this thing for a while, but he still keeps bringing up, like, I want to take you to Big Sur, and she's like, well, I'm not really ready for that right now. He's like, okay, no problem. And then it keeps sort of, it doesn't drag on, but it kind of lingers in here a little bit because we get this twist, and that is we come back to Alice, who we haven't seen since the very first act, since the very first few pages, and she's on television, and she's revealing that her entire life has been upturned after being with, like, what she thought was her soulmate, this perfect person. And this perfect person stole all of her data, emptied all of her bank accounts, forged social media posts and emails to her about the company she worked for and her employer so that they would terminate her and upset her life. And they did all this as a form of blackmail. Mm-hmm. And so she's on the news sharing her story. We learned that the FBI has been involved trying to find out this thing, and we learned that these perfect partners are what's called blots, which is it's like a blot. It's like a bot, but it's got the word L, the L in it.
Yes. Yeah, very cool name. Is very fitting. I thought that was cool. Mm-hmm. So now the word's out. She basically was like, she stood up to them, even though she knew that they would probably ruin her life even more, to get the story out. And so now we know, obviously, we're learning this as well. We finally know exactly what Roger is, or who Roger is. Well, not exactly, right? Because there's still some unanswered things. Like, so how is he so convincingly a human? Right down to his anatomy. Yeah. That's still, even after reading the whole script, I'm kind of like, well, how'd they do that? And then on top of that, we saw an opening scene that after he stole all her data and everything, he dissolved into just a puff of mist. How does that happen with physics, right?
Yeah, and it only happens in Big Sur, which we're piecing together is that in order for Roger to complete his mission, which he doesn't fully understand, he can only do it by going to Big Sur. And this comes into a further conflict because he's got a new roommate named Tad, who is far more of a player, and he thinks he can get a woman to Big Sur by the end of the night. Like, that's how good he is. And him and
and his dialogue came off more as like his dialogue came off more like a frat boy instead of like a android type, right?
Right, like he's the next generation.
Yes, exactly.
Roger's Gen 2, Steve, Alan was Gen 1, Roger's Gen 2. Steve is Gen 3, Tad is Gen 4.
Right, yep. So yeah, that's kind of how I felt too. Tad was a douche, and Roger doesn't like him. And he tells Meg that, right? He's like, I got a new roommate, I don't like him. So
this has been exposed, and Genevieve realizes that Roger is this guy. Because
Genevieve she ends up seeing it on the internet, right?
She sees it on the internet, tells Meg about this. And Meg isn't convinced until the commonality between all the other reports is they go to Big Sur in this cabin, and then the following morning, the blot has vanished, and all their data has been stolen.
Right.
and now,
well, it's not just their data. That's what's weird is they didn't
data,
just data,
money, everything about their lives. Yeah.
And then sent tweets that got them fired. Like, it's like destroyed their lives too. It's very, 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 very malicious. It wasn't just enough to steal their money. They want to actually like ruin their lives. Right.
Yeah.
So makes it more malicious and everything. And so then at that point, Meg's like, she talks to Roger on the phone because she's still doubting it. And then what did Roger do? He invites her to Big Sur again, right? And she's like, nope. And then she just ghosts him at that point.
She's like, ghosts him at that point. Tad vanishes for a spell. He hasn't gone to Big Sur, but he's not around. The landlord kicks Roger out.
Kicks everybody out. Because remember, the whole park.
The whole block is gone. Yeah, so it's
were they all? Well, they are all in on it. That's what I thought.
Were they all blots? Maybe. Yeah, like that's a good question. Yeah. And what's fascinating is that some of these blots get captured and arrested, and we're into like a Blade Runner territory thing here.
Yes, exactly. It was so cool. Like, and the cops were being gentle, and then he gets a call from his boss that warns him. He's like, the jig is up. You have to
get your last assignment to Big Sur, otherwise you'll start to decay and it'll be painful and all that type of stuff.
He says something like your organs will start to decay. It'll be very painful for you. Like, it's bad. It's bad. And so, when did you want to stop? I don't.
Well, I want to stop at the point where Roger still is bumping into Meg, but also keeping his distance politely.
He's living in a park.
Yeah,
he's living in the park.
He's living in the park. And
I thought that was interesting.
Meg is caught because she believes Roger loves her. Roger is still trying to figure out what his purpose is on this with it being a blot and having a mission. He doesn't quite know anything about it, but he still wants to be with her. And Meg now has to make a choice. Does she turn Roger in, or does she try to help him? And that's where we have to cut it off. But I will say the last act and how Genevieve approaches that conflict is quite endearing and pretty good in growth with regards to Roger, and
Mm-hmm.
it also, I mean, gosh, I mean, the ending is pretty. It has one weird aspect to it, but it still works in the end because it sort of has an ending followed up by an epilogue.
Yes.
And
Yes. The epilogue I was a little confused by, but the ending was great. I thought it was good. It felt, again, everything felt good. You know, you read those scripts where you're just like, this feels forced, this feels hollow, this feels empty, whatever. I never felt this way. I actually liked their relationship. At first, I wasn't going to think I was going to be on board with it, and by the end of the story, by the end of the third act, the way it all comes together, I liked it. I thought it was really good. But yeah, the epilogue, like the last page, basically, I was like, it felt a little too vague for me, for what the impact is trying to have. But I encourage, everyone, read the script. It's good. This is worth your time. It is.
it really is, because it has an interesting theme with regards to, especially with, I guess, what's happening in the news recently. So many people are generating artificial boyfriends and girlfriends. And
yeah.
and I thought, okay, that's kind of weird. But I mean, it's technically saying, like, what would happen as AI evolves, where phishing emails become more than just emails, but actual human beings.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, exactly.
And how dangerous that could be, and how do we result in that? And I will say the twist of how Meg survives this encounter, pretty clever. I'd say it was a pretty good solution.
Yes, yeah, and it was fulfilling to see, and yeah, it's not one of those endings where you feel robbed and you're like, oh, that sucked. It's just oh, well, I've got to make sure that you don't. Well, I'm going to hit you with something you completely don't expect, and that's how you feel. Like they just do the exact opposite, and it ends up pissing you off. It wasn't that way at all. This has a good ending, a great ending. I thought it was just the very last epilogue kind of had me raise an eyebrow, like, what was that?
It was a little off, but I would say the moments for improvement on this script are pretty seldom, because the characters know what they want, clearly. They're all distinct voices with distinct goals, and their relationships I can believe in, especially during the revelation when you find out Roger's a blot, and you realize, oh yeah, because he's talking like, an AI robot, which is funny. But it does have a tone issue, because there are some parts that are very funny through the absurdity, or just a clever play of humor. And then there's other parts that this is like a romance film or a romantic drama, but it feels like for the writer, she hasn't fully committed to which one she wants to be. And she hasn't blended them, I think, well enough for you to say, oh, this is like a science fiction romantic comedy. And, I mean, I would say either make it sci-fi romance or sci-fi rom-com. But because again, the interactions between Steve and Roger can be played for laughs very earnestly, kind of like something you'd see out of Coneheads or Third Rock from the Sun. Excuse me. Or it can go into a creepy territory, where it just doesn't land. So I would say that's my only advice for the writer, for Kate Folk, is, figure out which tone you want to do, commit to that, and then adjust accordingly. And I think you've got yourself a banger of a script that has its niche audience, but would probably become like a nice cult film, especially with a commentary on AI used in a way that we don't get to see too often. I can't think of too many films where you have imposter syndrome by way of AI for the exploitation of the main character, because obviously you have a companion, I think there's an Alan Thicke movie where he builds an AI son. And
Isn't there? Yeah, it was the one AI with the actor Haley Joel Osment was in it. Is that the one you're thinking of?
No, this one is from like the 80s when computers are new. It's like around the time of war games and
yeah. And he goes to an ATM and takes out a bunch of them, or just keeps
and
adding
then
money.
there's
to the
Daryl.
account.
That's another one where a human body with an
That's
artificial
Daryl.
brain.
Yeah, Daryl. That's what I'm thinking of. Was Daryl. Yep.
So like there's those types of stories. This one is a little bit different because it's a story of a woman falling in love with an AI, and an AI that you think is programmed to love her, but actually does love her, and how they deal with that, and
So
how
here's my thing.
Meg can move on.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
would, I would love. I'm just trying to. You're sitting here talking. I'm just trying to like replay it in my mind which one I'd prefer if I wanted it as a rom com or if I wanted it just more as a romance.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I don't know because I think I would want to see a rom com because I prefer that over romance just because that's my taste in film. But for this specific story, I feel like romance would be better with some comedy elements, right? But in the end, overall, I think that's really what this. If I had to pick a lane, this would be a romance. It is. You look at how it ends, right? Think about the third act and how it all comes together. And I'm like, it's a romance, but he as a character is so lovable, kind of like Johnny Five, right? Like from Short Circuit.
Yeah.
Like it's so lovable in his own little ways that he's so childlike that you're like you can't help but love him, right? And he's accidentally funny in so many of these situations. But I wouldn't want it to be so heavily romance that it's like a Lifetime movie, right? I don't want that either. So I don't know either. I think I would have if I had to pick a lane. This is a romance script. It is, but there's a lot of comedic moments in the and it's all the comedy stuff. It's not physical comedy. It's really in the dialogue, man. There's so many funny moments in the dialogue in this script, and so. But yeah, I think that it's there. I think I agree with you though. It just needs to kind of commit a little bit more and maybe one more rewrite or draft to get there. But don't change too much because I really feel like there's something unique here, which I say this every time I'm on the show. If it's a unique script, I'm like, we need more of those. We need less remakes and sequels and prequels and all this other crap. And this is fun. This is a fun standalone movie. Could have a small budget. But it would be very easy to make. Seriously, there's like almost zero CGI in this.
And it also is a film. It's also a script that actually has something to say that doesn't feel like it's preaching. It's preaching an agenda, but it is saying like there is a little extra sense of caution that's required because of this new element of technology that's entered into our society that's never going away.
It's not going away. That genie's out of the bottle. Like it's like the movie Her, right? I remember when I watched that. After I got done watching that, I'm like, Jesus, like this is right. And we're there. Like we're there. I mean, some of the dolls and stuff they're making are so realistic, just with what they're doing with that, and then they're putting AI onto them the way they talk to you. So yeah, this is not going to go away. And it's going to create, just like every piece of technology, major leap forward, the minor stuff too, but the major ones is where you notice it. This is going to have a big impact on society. And it's going to be both good and bad, just like everything is. It's just in how people use it. And the medical community, the government, there's going to be a million things that are going to lag way behind the tech. Tech always gets there first, and then everybody's like, whoa, look what this is doing to this, and what's doing to that, and what do we do, and how do we regulate it, and all this other stuff. We're in the mix of that in the biggest way ever with AI. AI is going to change humanity bigger than electricity, bigger than the wheel, bigger than fire. Like it's going to be bigger than anything we've ever seen before, bigger than the internet. And nobody knows what that means yet. We just know that the possibilities are endless with what AI can do, both good and bad for us. And so, yeah, I think that at the core of this, that's kind of the message is like, well, what could be, what could happen. And like what you noticed is like, hey, these could be 4 generations. Like they're getting better and better and better. These phishing scams in human form are getting better just within a year, 6 months of each other, whatever this window was, right, for this.
Yeah.
What's it gonna look like in 2 or 3 more years, right? Like,
well, I mean, AI itself is evolving faster than the microchip processor, because it used to be a new generation was like every 18 months, and it'd be double what was the previous generation. With AI, it's like what, 3 months?
Oh, it's insanely fast.
Yeah,
I don't know.
And in some cases, it's. I mean, I've noticed with some of the other AI models when I ask it various questions for like, hey, give me I need a website source for this. Can you find me one that's authentic? And then it'll find me. The earlier versions will find me the authentic ones. Current versions will find me the spam sites plus the authentic ones. So now I'm eating up more time trying to sort out what's legit versus what's some sort of conspiracy thing. Yeah, like Wackadoo part that I'm conducting for research. where it's almost being perverted by the same algorithm that perverted all the search engines, where, oh, the person who puts in the advertisement first, they'll be on the top, and it won't be exactly what you need, but you'll see that first, so maybe you'll click, and maybe you'll go there, and then that creates ad revenue and whatever. And it ends up not being a service anymore. It now becomes a storefront. And that is a very concerning aspect for me when you're seeing the evolution or the de-evolution in some ways of AI, of AI and where it's heading. And something very dark about this script is the fact that this could be one outcome where you have, the initial AI blots were AI models that were there to comfort people as they were passing on in hospice, but that business tanked. And so what happens? Well, a foreign power conscripts those AI blots and repurposes them for scamming, which means that you have a technology built to help people, and because it sometimes helping people can be a little bit too altruistic, which means it can't be financially sustainable, it can then be susceptible to coercion and exploitation.
Yep. I like that. I agree with everything. Yeah. So what do you think? You want me to go first on verdict?
Yeah, I think let's we'll discuss, give our ratings, and then we'll check in with the chat and the Patreon to see how they felt about the script and the conversation. So, TJ, share with us. It might not be a surprise, but how did you find Out There by Kate Falk?
I would green light it. I like it. I'd give it in its current form. I'd give it a 7.5 or an 8 out of 10. I agree with you. I think we should we should just subtly nudge it over a little bit more into probably a romance, and just so it's clear for the audiences, so they're kind of like scratching their heads. What is this? And I wouldn't give it a huge budget. I don't think it needs it, and I think that this would be just from word of mouth. I think that this would make money in the theaters, and then of course reap even more once it's on pay-per-view. So I green light it.
I'm in the same boat as you. I greenlight this. I greenlight this more for the interesting character interactions between Meg, Roger, Steve, and Genevieve. Like they're four people who I wouldn't want to spend time with in person, but I definitely want to watch in a film.
Agreed.
They're interesting that way. So I enjoyed that part. A little bit more refinement on the tone would go a long way. But yeah, this is definitely the type of modest budget, fun science fiction film that has a gimmick to it that could allow it to break out of being lost among all the streaming movies that are on Netflix and Hulu right now. So I think this could kind of break a little bit through that, just because it's interesting. And it also it reminds me of a classical take on a sci-fi concept that you'd see in the late 60s and 70s and 80s. And it's done so with a lot of honesty. So, excuse me. So yeah, this Kate Falk wrote 2 short stories that she's essentially combined into this script, and I think it's a strong it's a strong product of it. It's a strong story. I greenlighted it as well, but I think it should be a little bit higher on the list. Like this should be a top 20 script, not a top 50. It's got heart in it for something that talks about artificial intelligence.
That's exactly the phrase I was thinking. Right, you said it has heart, and that's what we need more of in film instead of just this. There's a lot of vapid, empty, just
content versus
things.
Story. Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, I would definitely greenlight it just based on that alone. But everything else, it's it's the whole package. It's all there, and it's one that if I'd never heard of it, and my girlfriend was like, "Hey, we need to watch this romance. It's a sci-fi thing. I think you might like it," and I'd be like, "I don't really want to, but it's your night, so let's watch it." And then I would watch it, and after it was over, it would be one of those that I'd begrudgingly, when she turns to me and says, "So you liked it, didn't you?" I'd have to say yes. I'm like, "Yeah, this was pretty good." Especially again, casting's always important, but I'm just gonna hit that really quick. I'm like, whoever plays Roger, like he's got to nail it, dude. He's got to be able to do that. He's got to walk that fine line of like robotic dialogue, but not really robotic dialogue, right? That and to have that sort of charisma that he's just kind of, it's almost like he's just playful all the time. Right?
And he has to be a type of good looking that doesn't turn off audiences. And that's kind of fascinating because you can go back from 1995 to 2015 and you can take a look at all of these various comedies, romance films, and there's a lot of good-looking men in there, but they don't have that, what Paul Chato says, magic jelly, where you look at them and like you're good-looking, but you're kind of plain. There's something about you that's missing the whole package, so to speak. And that's the same for men and for women, which is why there's been such crazy turnover for a lot of stars and potential stars in Hollywood, especially recently when social media is now competing for all of our attention. But for this type of guy, you cannot get like a Patrick Dempsey for it, who he's a good-looking chap, but he kind of becomes forgettable afterwards. Like, you need a type of guy that's got that it factor, who can play this type of character.
You know who I imagine, and of course he's way too old for this role specifically. But I mean, in his prime, I don't know his name. You might off the top of your head, but the main guy in Starship Troopers, the dude with the like
Casper Van Dien.
The main guy, yeah. So you need someone like that in their prime, they're like, they're late 20s, and he just has that, like, it's right there in the script. Like, seriously, like someone he's like Ken, right? Like, just carved out of something that's like out of a magazine. You're like, this is just so, and to get someone who looks that good and can act and pull this off, I'm sure there's somebody out there that could do it. But but yeah, like that would be key. But yeah, fun script. I loved it. I liked the script. It was good. I'm glad that I got on this week.
So all right, we'll check in with the audience. So we put out a poll for the live chat based on the conversation. How would you rate the script? 75% of the listeners voted to greenlight, 25% voted to pass. So maybe I don't know what they were hung up for, but maybe it just didn't register enough with them, which is not bad, because that's some pretty good odds for a peculiar type of sci-fi romance story like this. So that's pretty great. Over on the Patreon side of things, we have 100% of the people that participated in the poll voted to greenlight as well, so they're on course with us. I was hoping a little bit more synchronicity between that and the live chat, but it is what it is. I appreciate everyone who participates in the polls that we host both on the Patreon and the live show. And of course, we want to give a highlight to the dead man who sent a traditional poop emoji sticker for 99 cents, as he is known to do. Greatly appreciated, sir, but not required. But I want to thank you nonetheless. With that being said, TJ, any last final thoughts before we call it a night?
Nope, it was great. Love the show, and thanks for having me on.
All right. Well, thank you so much, sir, for joining me this weekend. I want to thank our mods, Darren M. and Lord Toth, for modding the chat. We have a great audience here, so fortunately, we don't have to worry too much about any type of offensive or bullying in our audience as well. They're all great people, and I appreciate them listening in every week for this show. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for taking a couple hours out of your evening to listen to this show, whether it's live or on the replay. We'll be back again next week with another interesting script. Until that time, I wish you all a wonderful weekend, and never forget, guys, when it comes to great story, it all starts with the script.